Okay, should be alive. Here we go. Post the link here. Yeah, I was under the assumption that this one guy was going live, but he actually just made an 8-minute video, which we can also play and talk about if we want. So here, let me do a screen share until we get a discussion going. Because they had a little bit of an issue last night, a little bit of discussion last night. It was kind of wild over at Praise's channel. But this is a little bit about that here. So let's go ahead and listen here to what this one guy has to say. Oh, bring the speakers.
Hello everyone, this is just going to be a little video about just something that occurred last night, nothing really too important. Just some thoughts and ideas about some verses, so I'm going to get ahead and give an explanation for this. It's more or less a correction of sorts, I guess, if I had to call it anything. Between Gavin and me, I guess. He said something about quoting Matthews 18:15 through 17, which I'm about ready to read here for you, so everyone can get the context.
There we go. So
Matthews 18:15 through 17. Moreover, if thy brother trespass against thee.
Did you hear what was going on last night, Ronin?
About what, please?
No, I guess you didn't. You didn't hear about it. It was on Praise's channel, or between this one guy's channel and Praise's channel. That there was like a bunch of more atheist type people there, or unbelieving type people, and they were talking about people talking on Praise's channel, saying Praise was talking about them, and Gavin was talking about them, making all kinds of false statements and everything. So it escalated and got really out of hand last night. So then when Praise opened up the link, they all jumped in and started, attacking and everything like this. It was really bad.
Well,
His fault.
Was that?
I believe it was day before yesterday when that incident. See,
Last night.
Well, yeah, but the day before that.
Oh, okay.
The day before that, Praise was, I think it was Skylar Fiction. And he was saying, I welcome everybody to come in. And I asked him, are you going to be, removing me to backstage when I point something out that you said wrong? And he didn't respond to me. So, okay, fine. So I figured, he's going to be that kind of guy.
Yeah, so it was probably like a continuation of that, because he was still talking about Skylar's Fiction, so it might have been a continuation of that.
I want to know. I'm not saying you do know. I'm saying I want to know if, in general, right? Theists, people that believe in God, if they understand the difference between the mind and reality, because faith or God comes from the mind. I have no issue with that. I can get into detail, but the point being,
the faith in the truth, though, the truth is outside.
The truth
is outside of the mind.
No, the truth is based on an individual perspective. Like
the truth doesn't exist outside of the mind.
No, anything outside of the mind is reality. It's the mind.
Well, that's reality. It's the truth, then, right?
No.
So it's the truth.
No, the truth again is based on individual perspective.
No, what you believe is based on your perspective.
Well, again, because if you believe something, to you, it would be the truth, would it
but
not?
If you believe the truth, you're believing in something that is real, apart and outside of the mind, right?
You're not really wanting to listen and address the question.
I did.
Because you know what's coming. See, you're smart.
Did.
I know you're smart. Because you know what's coming, you interrupt me.
Well,
you know exactly what's coming. And you're avoiding The
Well, if you
actual
had something to say, I think you would have said it already.
no, that's just it. You think you have the truth, but it is not reality because in
No,
reality,
but you have to
in
prove.
reality, someone is disagreeing with you. Am
No,
I not?
you have to show where I am wrong, and
You cannot
what is
prove.
not
Okay,
real.
you cannot prove your God in reality.
Show me what is not real. It's not real.
God is real.
Powers
It's of the mind. If it's either
powers
real,
aren't real. Powers aren't real.
huh?
Powers are not real.
Powers? No. Powers are just a concentrated idea where
No,
when one has a basic focal point to work off of.
powers are real. Everything consists of powers and forces and energy. Everything.
Again, but see, those
A,
are the ones you perceive as truth
a
versus
king. A
how about
king is
other
a
people?
combination of powers and forces, and that's a force to be reckoned with. That's a power.
Well, that's just it.
It's
Those
and
people, other theists, are saying the same thing you're saying.
which is what?
Exactly what you're saying, but
What
they
did I
say
say?
it in their own words
What did I say?
because their God is named differently.
What did I say? That there's
Whatever you
power.
said.
Powers exist. Powers exist, right?
No, yeah, but yes, but they have their
Okay,
own.
so that's the truth. Powers exist outside of your mind.
No, that would be reality. It's not a power. It's a situation.
So is the truth.
No, because you define
Powers
it.
powers do exist, and everything consists of powers that come from a greater power.
Okay, fine, but what do they do? Not
What
one of them is controlled. Not
they
one of them.
do what gods do, what powers do. If it's a power, just lightning, it just makes lightning. If it's a volcano, it makes noise and smoke and fire. It's a power, it does what the power does. If it's a
Okay, are
king,
you
if it's a king, he rules by his authority that was given to him.
okay? So you're saying that there are powers, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Wait, let me.
Absolutely,
Let,
definitely, absolutely.
no, I'm trying to understand your position by asking you these questions. I'm not trying to prove you wrong.
Absolutely. No, there are powers. I'm sure you agree there's powers, right?
Right, but see how
Oh, so you believe in gods.
I don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Again,
because that's what gods are. They're powers.
again,
See, if you
I
had an
am.
education, you have a decent education, you would know that gods are powers.
Well, right now
But
it's not.
you never had a decent education,
Well,
though,
it's
but
not.
ever thought I can
Well,
understand why you don't know there is a God because you don't know God is defined as a power.
again, but he does not have any power over me if you believe in a different God.
What do you mean he
I
doesn't have
don't
any
believe in
power?
a
He
God.
made you. He
Huh?
made you. How does he not have power over you when he made you? He gave you your power that you have. Your power
Nate,
didn't come. You didn't make your own power. You didn't get
again,
your own power.
I came a part of evolution and nature.
No. And even if that was the case, it still comes from power that came from God anyway. So
Okay,
it
okay,
still comes from God. And evolution doesn't even exist anyways. Millions of years don't exist. What does exist was a global flood less than 5,000 years ago.
okay. So after the global flood, all of the strata is the same, which means I could go into my backyard and I can dig and find diamonds, oil, gold, platinum in my backyard. Is that so? If the global flood is
Well,
you
very, very,
you're
very
saying
small amounts, maybe.
no, all of you all of you flood apologists, make that claim, and I'm saying, okay, based on that model,
Very
because
small.
the strata is all the same,
Well,
I should be able to go dig in my backyard and find gold,
Very
that's
small
true. That's
amounts.
true.
oil,
That's actually
coal. I can
that's
find
actually
everything, huh?
that's actually true potentially with the gold and the sand. There's little particles. If you really refine it and mine it out, for like every 5 buckets of sand, you can ping out like the finer little grams of it. And if you go through it enough times, there are potentially that you could get some scraps of gold from it. But
Especially
you really have
quartz.
to painstakingly do it.
Yeah,
Because you
a lot of
can.
work.
You
Yeah.
just really have to go and finally do it. So it is possible to find gold. It you just have to really, 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 really work for it. But
Well,
dudes have been doing it off YouTube, so
again,
that's how I know about that.
again, I'm agreeing with the. I'm being forceful with my voice because I know you don't want to listen to me. I am agreeing with your model. Based on your model, I didn't say I'm going to find all. Based on your model, I didn't say I was going to find 10 tons of gold, but I should be able to find every single element. And I don't. I know I don't because I studied geology and understand that it would be in certain regions where you could find the most gold, the most.
Right, because it isolates itself out and separates itself into
Okay,
blotches and groups.
okay, fine. The
stuff.
flood happened. Again, it's not that you're convincing me. I'm asking you about your model, not me, subjective, the objective, the model. Based on your model,
What you see is what happened.
okay,
You see
what happened?
layers from the global flood all 100 a mile down.
Okay, so they're there. What next?
There's a mile down everywhere around the world, sometimes 2 miles deep or more.
Okay, what next?
That's sediment layers from a global flood.
Okay, what's next?
Then it's true that civilizations began less than 5,000 years ago. They all
I wanted to ask:
Okay, how
is this private or open? I didn't know. I just wanted to ask:
It's
was
live.
this private or open?
It's
I
live.
didn't know if it was like open or private, like because of the title.
It's live. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying. All right, I'll just sit back in the sidelines for now.
No. It's okay. No, it's not.
All
No,
right.
it's not a private. I just thought. See what happened was I thought you had a live stream open, and you just had it open for like 8 minutes, and you were talking about what happened last night, and then you closed it down, and then I went over there, and you had already shut it down. Because I thought you had a live stream open. I was going to quit mine and then go over to your place.
Yeah,
Your channel.
I was coming. I came over here for that reason because I'm on my way to work. I'm at work right now, so that's why I'm here. Yeah.
I figured that out after a while, you know.
Okay. All right. Not to disrupt your guys' conversation. Go ahead. I just wanted to see if what type of environment it was in. But all right, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's not only for Ronin. I'll change the title here.
What Jungle Jargon had said, he was going to go talk to somebody, and I asked for the link, but then he closed down the stream, and I'm saying, oh man, I want to go over there, but I didn't find out, and then he came back because obviously it was shut down, and then basically threw some bait on there, and I bit, and so we're caught up now. Where we're going now?
Okay, but
Again, what happens after?
we're talking about gods and the global flood.
Okay, after that, did man learn his lesson? The answer is no, as I understand it. The man.
No, some people did. Some people.
Well, yeah, well, some. Yeah, I agree. Some, but not all.
Well, I mean, so what's your reason for not learning?
Because they didn't have mass communication like we have now. I mean, that's only one region of the world. They didn't travel afar like we do today.
But everybody has the Spirit of God, though, speaking to them.
No, that's only an idea that man came up with to scare little children.
No, it's true.
The
it's true.
The boogeyman will get you.
It's true that
it's It's
true.
But man did not know at the time that when we first started figuring things out, we were still very barbaric. To this day, we're rather.
No, they were much more intelligent than what we are. We're kind of dumb by comparison because I mean, look at the buildings they used to make and stuff.
They still make buildings today.
Not like they don't even know how they were made. The buildings that were made in the past.
They could figure it out. It's labor intensive. I have a few ideas on how to do it. I understand mechanical engineering. Come on, I think we've been.
Yeah, but it still took a lot of smarts to build the buildings that they made. Yeah.
Our species is no smarter or dumber at any point in our existence. Just like a lot.
Not according to the brain capacity size.
No, that's just, see, these are my words. It's not like I studied something. I did study a lot of things, but then I came up with my own position about things, and I realized that we're just as smart as we've ever been. Okay,
So
our
why do you have a smaller
species.
brain? Why do you have a smaller brain size than what people used to
No,
have?
no, okay. It's based on concentration, not actual size. The concentration of synapse.
Based on function, based on
No, no,
function.
no, no. Again, you could get a car and make it really small or make it really big, and that's how humans are. They can be rather smart or not as smart, and there's a lot of variation in there. But in general, the whole window of our existence, we're just as smart as we've ever been. We just know more things,
Which is
and we
only
and,
according to the
and
written
we build,
instruction that
no,
made your mind.
no, and we build on those things.
You're only as smart as what your genetic information made you to be.
No, the point is that genius has nothing to do with passing a test. Genius has everything to do with what genius accomplishes. Okay? I can pass a test, you can pass a test. You may be better at whatever you are a favor, and I'm better. That doesn't make either one of us better than the other. It's just how each one of us applies
But
our skill or
but your ability was given to you by the genetic information that made your mind and made your
no. Okay, well, okay. See, you're going by
muscles and
no, no.
strength, gave you strength.
No. You're going by a divinity. I'm going based on
No,
reality.
I'm going by the written instruction inside of you that we can
No, but
observe.
I'm saying,
We can see it
oh,
inside
come
of
on.
you.
No, each one of us was raised by a parent figure or two,
No, it has nothing to do with nurture.
and, we absorbed information
I'm
in
talking
our.
about the size of your brain and your ability to think was
Again,
given to you by the genetic information that is inside of you that was given to you when you were born.
Okay, the size of the brain has no equative property to intelligence. Albert Einstein had a comparatively small brain, for example.
Well, yeah, but he had
Are
a
you
good
saying a
he had
bigger?
a good education though. He had a good education. He learned from great people, and he put two and two together, and he came up with
Now we're going with
relativity.
education, not brain capacity. See, you're jumping around again.
Well, but
Like I
but
said,
his
you know,
ability was given. His ability to think was given to him by his genetic
you,
information. But you're conflating the ability or the size, the brain size, with different environmental factors, and saying that
no,
Albert Einstein had a small
no,
brain. I'm
no,
explaining that he had a
no.
good education and great teachers
You're
to
going
learn
off.
from,
You're going off on another tangent.
and he put two and two together. But that's irrelevant to the genetic information
Let's get okay.
that gave you your ability to reason and think.
No, it gave.
Unless you refuse to reason and think for
No.
yourself.
No, all existence is potential. Okay, what you can do with what you know,
With what you have been given.
that's potential.
That is the power that you have been given by your genetic information.
No, you
and
might
by your environment and by your upbringing and by your family and circumstances.
wait a minute. But my whole family is theist. Okay, my whole family is theist. I'm the only one that's not. I read the Bible, and I was a child.
That sounds like a personal problem.
Look, I'll admit I was a child, and I didn't know, but something was telling me this just doesn't agree with how I think. Okay, so I just left the idea. I didn't argue against it. I didn't, make any protest. I just lived my life. I didn't know the word atheist. I didn't know the word atheist until.
But you agree there's powers, right?
Huh?
You agree there are powers, and you were given power, right?
No, no. I agree that
you don't have power. You don't have a mind.
No, I have.
You don't have potential. You don't have potential.
I have the capacity to do something, and
you were given the capacity to do things.
No, I was born with a certain genetic profile, right, that allows me to absorb certain information because that information interests me. Like
But the genetic information was given to you. What you have was given to you.
again, life was given to me by nature. It was organic. I was
No,
born.
by written instructions.
No, because if it was written instructions, I would not be making mistakes, and I make plenty of them.
No, because it only makes your mind gives you the power to think and reason on yourself. If
Come
you
on,
if you refuse to reason and think on your own, that's a personal problem.
Jungle Jogging. If I gave you a device, okay, and you've never seen this device before in your life, it is a device. Everybody knows it's a device. And you say, okay, operator. You said, well, where do you start? Well, here's an instruction manual. Are you going to start anyway, or are you going to read the instruction manual?
I'm probably just going to pick it up and try to figure it out and see if I can make it work.
I nor you came with instructions. Okay, our species did not come with instructions. We didn't know. We know more now, and we conjured a God.
If I can't figure it out, then I read the instructions.
Not knowing better. You see, you're assuming a conclusion where all I'm looking for is an explanation. And if you cannot explain your conclusion, then the point is moot because, well, I can't believe you because you're not explaining it to convince me to that point.
I already told and you agreed that there are powers that were given to you. I know there's
electromagnetism, for example. I know that there are.
So you agree there is powers.
I know that is a source or form.
So you believe in gods, then? You believe in gods?
No, that's a form of energy.
Yeah, and gods are powers.
Okay, see, you're assuming the conclusion.
They're real powers. Real powers exist. And they're called gods. Throughout all history, they're called gods.
Fine. Excuse me a moment. Name a few of those powers.
The volcano, lightning, thunder, and kings, rulers, nations.
No. Wait. One was
they're
natural.
All powers.
No, one was natural and the other is artificial. So what?
No, they're all powers. They're all real powers. They're all real powers to be feared.
Have you ever heard the word animism?
What's that got to do with anything?
Let me get to it.
Is it or is it not a power?
Let me get.
I would say.
Let me get to it.
I was just. Go ahead.
Let me get to it, please. In anthropology, right? There's before man developed religions, there was this thing called animism, where the volcano is a power, the tree is a power, the water, the sky. It's called
powers. They are powers.
And it's animism. Okay.
But they're not the only powers. The people are powers. The tribe chieftain is a power. The king is a power.
Again, it's called, technically the word is animism. You're believing the volcano has a power.
But it's a real power.
Saying, well, no, the volcano is not isolated.
But it's a real power.
The volcano is not part of a closed system.
It is a real power, though.
No, it's
a power for you to fear. You should fear lightning, and you should fear volcanoes.
It's a form of energy.
And you should fear the king, too.
Again, the king and an actual volcano.
Oh, so you believe in gods. Okay, that's good.
Volcanoes cannot believe
you just don't know how gods are defined. You believe in gods.
Okay, great. The question would be, is it working for you? Are you happy with it?
It works for me when I do what's right. That gives me great joy.
No, the last
great joy when I do what's right. When I choose to do what's right and tell the truth.
These dramatics. I love going through these.
And tell the truth. It gives me great joy that you probably might not even understand.
Okay, the question was simple: yes or no, please.
Because I haven't seen you tell the truth.
You can't even answer a simple question: yes or no. Are you happy? It's a yes or no.
I just told you it gives me great joy. No,
you just gave me an explanation.
Surpasses all.
I would say, Jungle. I would say there is a verse. Anything yes or no, anything more of this is of the devil. There is a verse like that within the Bible when it comes to yes or no questions.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Didn't Jesus say, if you answer is yes or no? So that makes Jesus the devil?
No. Be-
Jesus said it.
because
Remember, I read that book too, and in the Bible,
because
Jesus said,
I
"Let your
told
answer
you
be
that
yes,
I have
yes,
great
or
joy, and
no,
you just
no,
it went right over
yes
your
or
head.
no."
I
Jesus said
told
this.
you. I
Again,
told you,
Jesus said
yes,
that.
I have great joy
Now it's
that
of the
surpasses
devil.
all understanding. It
Now
went
it's of
right
the
over your
devil.
head. And you
Now
asked me
Jesus is
again
the
the same
devil.
question.
No, it's not.
You asked me again the same question that I already answered.
No, it's a simple yes or no.
I'm in.
Are you?
Hey guys.
Hi, Tony. Are
Tony.
you happy? That was the question. It's yes or no.
Yes,
Jesus,
yes,
remember,
but I told you I
Jesus
have
said,
great
Jesus said,
joy. You don't know
Jesus
joy
said
is better than happiness.
what
You don't even
Jesus
know joy is
spake.
better than happiness.
No, that's what Jesus said.
Yeah, so I did answer you, and you did. It went right over your head.
No, because Jesus said, answer yes, yes, or no, no. So the question is, are you happy? And then you give me some kind of explanation. But Jesus said to answer simply and humbly, and you won't do that. Why? But you believe in God, and I don't. Why? Why is that? If Jesus spake that and told you to answer yes or no,
Hey,
to answer
Jargon.
you. Oh,
Thanks
go
for
ahead.
having me on.
go ahead, please.
Oh.
I'm going to take a break from my ranting.
Okay. Why don't we just talk about some science here? Why don't we get into some science? Is that allowed?
Well,
hold-
that's what we're
hold up,
talking
Okay,
hold
we're
about.
going to change the topic to avoid the issue. Got it.
We're talking,
Oh,
we're
we already
talking
know
about
you
No,
don't
no,
agree
let's
with
be
the
open
Bible.
and
So,
honest about this. You're being
Hold up, hold
Okay.
up, hold up. I would like to address the thing that before you change topics, if that happens.
Sure.
I'd like to address what Ronan was saying about with happiness. Happiness, I would say no, but only because happiness is technically selfishness. If you try to always make yourself happy, you're technically being selfish because you're doing it for yourself. So
yeah. All
happiness
right. Well,
doesn't
listen,
necessarily
guys.
mean to be
Wait a
better
minute.
for
Okay.
joy. I would say.
Okay. Back to Jesus. If you might be
Yeah,
familiar
we
with.
know you don't believe in Jesus, so
Wait a
why
minute.
talk about
Wait a
it?
minute.
Why
Again,
talk about it?
I said this before.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is your model. I'm
Yeah.
working off of your model, not
I
what
know.
I'm saying. I'm working off of your model.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
this
already
is
know
not
you don't
about
agree
me.
with the
And
Bible.
Jesus,
So why talk
wait
about
a
it?
minute, but just what Jesus said. It's you. You don't agree with the model. You don't believe in God.
Okay.
Your
Well, I
model
do.
is the Bible. Your model is God.
All right,
Based on
all right. Slow
based
down.
on.
Slow down. All right. Enough with your big mouth and listen to somebody else. You got a
Wait a
big
minute,
mouth.
but you're not making sense.
No, take
All
it
right.
easy.
Well, what started the
Ronan, let him
universe? All right.
speak. Let him
Stop.
speak.
Stop.
You
Stop.
keep
What's
contradicting
all right?
yourself.
I know. So what started the universe? It all came out of what? Nothing. What's your model? Where did everything come from? Out of what?
You're changing the topic.
Why not? We already know you don't agree with Jesus and the Bible. So explain to us where it all came from.
Because you realize you contradicted yourself. You changed the topic. Okay.
No, let's talk about science. Tell us where
That's
everything came
changing
from.
the topic. That's changing.
Where did everything come from? You're the genius, right? Atheists know everything. So where did everything come from?
No, wait a minute. You're conflating atheism, which is a disbelief or non-belief.
Okay, so if you just want to, okay, so if you just want to discredit the Bible, which you want to say you won.
I was quoting your Bible.
Okay, we got it. We heard it. Enough with your mouth. Talk about something else.
Okay, admit you were
Go
wrong.
on to something else.
Okay, go to science then. You want to change
Okay, ready? We're going to go to
He was
science. Ready?
talking science. He was talking science.
I was talking science, so be quiet for 2 minutes. You're very arrogant atheist, so shut up. Ready?
Okay, you could stand to lower your tone a little bit too, just saying.
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about the origin of the universe and the origin of life. How, as an atheist, how did everything come out of nothing or a multiverse? What was the mechanism that got everything going if there is no God?
Wait a minute. I got one for you. Before we go on, just this one point.
Try to answer the question, Ronan.
I will. And I'm going to use science, but this is going to confuse you because you have to face the reality. Your Bible.
You're going back to the Bible again. No. Answer my question directly.
Y'all conflate science and reality.
Ask your question, Ronan.
With imagination and feelings.
Answer the question.
I didn't go into feelings.
Okay, fine.
You want me to remove you, Ronan? Answer the question. Answer the question directly, Ronan. He asked you a question.
Well, I am answering the question. I'm addressing the question.
You're avoiding the question.
No, because
how did everything come to be? How did anything come to be?
Okay, based on your model, the Bible.
No, how did it come to be? How did it happen?
Oh, science hasn't discovered that yet. But
so you don't know, so you can't tell us. Okay,
Right.
thanks.
So all you
Right.
want to do is ridicule the Bible then. So we got that already.
I don't. Where did I ridicule the Bible when I was using the Bible's words, Jesus'
Okay, so
words?
we got it. You want to
call
ridicule.
you out.
You want to
Okay,
interpret.
Do you know what the word abiogenesis means?
Yes, that's life from non-life, and there's no
Okay,
evidence.
hold
for
on. Let me make my point, then I'll shut up for 2 minutes.
it. Okay.
God proved abiogenesis by blowing life into dirt, clay to create Adam. Something from nothing, dirt and clay. God blew life into it. That's abiogenesis.
No, it's not.
Based on your Bible.
No,
That's
it's not.
right
You don't
there.
even
No,
know.
it's right there.
No,
right there.
that would be an intelligent agent producing
Yeah.
life.
The power of his word.
An
Again,
intelligent agent.
but then God proved it because he blew life
No,
into
that's
dirt.
not abiogenesis.
That's it.
Abiogenesis.
Something from nothing. Dirt is nothing.
No.
So you're
God,
saying
remember,
And you
God,
believe chemicals. Wait,
God is
hold it.
something.
You believe
Gentlemen,
chemicals.
God,
Okay, you're going to be quiet.
To you, God is something. So something created something from nothing.
And that's
from
something.
something.
Yeah, and that's an intelligent agent doing it. That's not it happening on its own. You believe the molecules, chemicals, produce themselves, which has no evidence. Do you see the difference?
It's
Okay.
called chemical reaction.
Yeah, but it's never been shown once. Could a car self-assemble without a mechanic? If I gave you all the parts?
I tell you what, you put some too much salt on whatever, you're gonna
I didn't
take.
ask you about salt.
That's
I would
a
honestly,
that's
I
a
would honestly
chemical
say
reaction.
it would depend on the technology of the
chemical
car.
reaction.
Well,
Putting-
you still need a mechanic, wouldn't you?
no, there's a chemical reaction when you put sugar on your tongue, for example.
We're not talking about sugar. And where did sugar come from? You're not explaining how that happened to begin with.
It came through the evolutionary process of nature.
There's no evolution. You're talking about abiogenesis. You don't have life yet.
No,
You don't even know what you're talking about. You got a big mouth and you don't know anything about chemistry.
No. I already said God proved abiogenesis by blowing life.
And I just told you, hey, listen, I just told you that abiogenesis through an intelligent agent. That's not abiogenesis.
That's God again, intelligent
That's
agent.
an intelligent agent doing it.
Same thing, man.
No, it isn't, because it would have to happen on its own.
You're referring back to Kitzmiller versus the Dover Board of Education. Let's
No,
not go there.
there's
I
no-
know that. I
no.
know that.
You're
No,
blowing
you don't
hot
understand
air.
what you're talking about. Do you know who James Tour is? He's a world-renowned chemist.
So what? If he's not,
Yes.
if he's not part of the consensus, which is
Yes, he is.
91%,
Oh, so wait, so he has to be an atheist.
nah.
So he has to be an atheist then. You are beyond ignorant. Why should we believe your authority? You have no clue what you're talking about.
Because you get mad at me pointing things out about your Bible that you don't like to face.
No, we're talking about science now. You don't want to face the reality. You don't understand what abiogenesis is. You're ignorant.
I do, because God proved it
Okay.
in your Bible.
No, that's an intelligent agent doing it. That's not it happening on its own.
No, that would be
Yes, yes. You don't know what you're talking about.
You're really-
Abiogenesis
you're-
is life from non-life without an intelligent agent.
God. That's what God did, creating Adam.
No, that's an intelligent agent doing it. Could a mechanic, could a car build itself?
You're just relabeling God there. That's all
No,
doing.
you're repackaging abiogenesis, and it
No, I'm
doesn't have
not.
evidence.
No, I'm not.
You
I'm
don't
using-
have,
remember,
you don't have anything to say. You don't have an
I'm
argument
using
to
your
stand
Bible.
on.
No,
I'm
he has a
using
big
your
mouth and
Bible.
ignorance. Tell us what
No,
a
I'm
protein.
not.
Hey, shut up already. Tell us what a protein is. What is a protein made out of?
Chemical.
Chemical
Okay.
what? You're a dummy. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's amino
What
acids.
is a protein? Amino? Yeah, what kind of amino acids?
Okay, so you
Yeah,
want to get into
what kind of
No,
amino
no,
acids,
no. Answer
Ronin?
me directly. The atheist. I'm talking to the moron. Tell me what a protein is made out of.
I can look it up. I don't remember.
Oh, you got to look it up because you don't know what you're talking about.
Because you
What
wanna-
amino acids make up a
because you
protein?
wanna- Because you're
No, 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 no.
upset.
Don't go back to the Bible.
No, I'm saying you are upset because you can't carry a civil conversation. Because
Okay,
you
how
have
am I upset? No, you keep
Oh, shut up!
comparing.
You're an
You're
idiot.
not
Shut
having
up!
a
You're
rational.
beyond dumb. You don't
Yeah,
know
because-
anything.
Yeah,
All
you
you
don't
got
have
you
a
got is ad
rational
hominem attack.
conversation, Ronin.
Because you
you're not
don't.
even-
You keep relating
What
the intelligent
kind of weakling
agent.
are you? This is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for you.
You're not
There's
being
no
rational.
examples of
Would you
life from
shut up?
non-life.
Why don't you listen
There's
for
no-
2 minutes? And you don't even talk for 2 minutes. You just make some nonsense statement
You're
that
projecting,
cannot be
Ronin.
connected to anything
Dude,
else.
There's
You're
no
projecting.
examples of life from non-life. You don't know what you're talking about.
Bible, God proved it in the Bible.
No, he did. That would be
That's
through an intelligent agent.
abiogenesis, gentlemen.
Wow, you're dumb.
You're saying
no.
you're saying that he's doing what you're doing.
No,
Ronin.
I had a question. If so, God proved abiogenesis,
And he did not.
life into dirt to create
Wow.
Adam. If
Do you know abiogenesis is unproven? Do you know it's a complete hypothesis?
The Bible proves it. The Bible proves it.
That's through an intelligent agent. That's not abiogenesis.
You're just
Ronin,
relabeling.
you're not
Wow.
making any sense. You better.
You're just
you better-
relabeling the
You're
word.
a fool, man.
Quit while you're ahead, Ronin. Quit while you're ahead. You're not even making any sense.
What do you mean, quit while you're ahead? You got nothing on this jungle jargon. You're more confused than this guy yelling at me.
No, you don't want to listen and understand anything. You don't know anything about organic chemistry.
Explain it to me.
You
Now it's
don't
organic
listen to
chemistry.
me,
Go
so
ahead.
listen to somebody
I-
else.
I'm ready for
Okay.
your lecture.
Yeah, I explained it 3 times, and all you do is don't understand it.
No, just saying it is not an explanation.
And
You're
you
just-
saying what
you're
you're
just
saying is
using
not
it-
an
You're just
explanation.
using it because you picked up on a simple phrase, but you can't elaborate on it.
I
That's
just
what I
did.
want-
You don't even know what a
No, no,
okay.
you
Tell us
don't.
what a protein is.
No, okay, what
You-
is a protein composed of?
All left-handed amino acids that require a specific peptide bond that have never formed under prebiotic chemistry. You're ignorant.
Okay.
You don't even know what that is, I
So
bet.
what if I'm ignorant? I have questions. That's what ignorance is.
Okay,
I have
so I'm trying to
questions.
educate you. Do you want to listen?
Well, sure, but you can't answer my questions because
I
you
just
want to
did.
go off on a tangent.
That's
No,
not a
Ronin,
tangent.
try
I
to
just
learn
explained a
something, Ronin.
peptide bond.
Try
I
to
just
learn
explained.
something.
Well, go ahead then.
Okay. Proteins are made up of all left-handed variety of amino acids, and in nature they form a racemic mixture, which life can't use. So you have to have a specific sequence of arrangement of amino acids. They have to be all left-handed. They have to have a specific peptide bond to produce a functional protein. That's never been shown under prebiotic chemistry. Do you understand that? Look
Yeah.
it up. Okay. So what's the problem? How am I lying and being dishonest? I have a background.
Well, you asked me a question. I'm trying to answer it.
No, I'm not asking you a question. I'm giving you a statement of how
Oh, no,
proteins
no.
work.
You just said that. How does it? And I was going to answer.
Okay.
And you keep talking.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't say you're going to answer. Respond.
Okay, well, you explain it, jargon.
The left-handed
Protein folding?
amino. Yeah, they have
Yeah.
to be folded correctly, and they don't even know how they're folded correctly.
Right. So the atheist thinks that this chemical process has been shown, and it's never been shown, not even close.
Again, you're conflating atheism and science.
You're making up
You
things.
don't know what
Ronin.
you're talking about, or you're
I don't
too
know what I'm
scared-
talking about.
or you're
Wow,
too
well then,
scared to face the point. Okay.
what point?
Now,
The origin of life has
atheism-
never.
Atheism and science are two different things.
Yeah,
And
you
you're
really should
conflating-
say the scientist.
Why
if
are you
anything.
conflating two different ideas?
You wanted to discuss origin of life and abiogenesis, so those are the examples I'm giving you.
That's science, not atheism.
Well, most atheists accept abiogenesis, which is completely unproven.
No, they don't. I said God proved it
And I
using your
explained to you.
Bible.
I explained
It
to you
says
4
so in your
times.
Bible.
All right, jargon. You want to handle this?
Yeah, I've been trying to handle it for a long time now.
Yeah, we're trying to explain to you how that's not what the Bible says. But if you want to keep shouting and
Did God create Adam from dirt or clay? If so,
God-
that's abiogenesis.
no, is God an intelligent being or nothing?
That's up to you to decide. To me, it's a
Oh,
figment. It's a figment of the imagination. To me,
and so is abiogenesis because there's no examples of it. You believe in magical molecules that self-assembled all on their own without intelligence.
No, I'm just calling your book out because it says
Well, I'm
God
calling your.
it
right,
says
well,
God created Adam.
Okay, well, I'm calling your book out on abiogenesis, which has no examples.
Again, God proved it in the Bible by creating Adam.
That's
Through
not
an
about
intelligent
them.
being. That's not abiogenesis for the 8th
No,
time.
you're just relabeling God. That's all you're
No, we're not. That's an intelligent agent doing it.
Intelligent
Abiogenesis.
agent is God. That's all. Intelligent design argument. That's all it is. That's the
Okay,
intelligent
well-
design fallacy.
Because it has to be an intelligent agent. It can't be by
Again,
mistakes.
okay, fine. That intelligent agent created Adam.
Dude.
That's abiogenesis.
No, it's not. That would be through an
Yes, it
intelligent
is.
agent.
It-
'Cause
it- Hey, you know why it's so stunning? Because no one's ever said this before.
It's
I'm the
by
one
his-
that said
we've
it.
heard it a
It's
thousand
I
by
times.
his-
originated
You're
the
a
whole
genius.
idea that God proved abiogenesis by creating Adam, blowing life into dirt.
No, he.
That's
he
right. That's where you're shocked.
concatenated-
That's
he
where you're shocked.
programmed your
You know,
That's where
genome.
you're
I'm
shocked,
actually-
Tony.
I'm
That's
gonna
where you're
actually
shocked.
see if that would fly with my brother because he's like a
you'll have to think
biologist or
about
some crap with that. So I'm gonna actually
Sure,
ask
yeah.
him that.
If you want to have a coherent discussion with somebody that has an education in chemistry, that would be much better
Yeah.
than somebody that wants to go in circles and really doesn't understand a word I'm
It
saying.
wasn't circles if I
No,
pointed
because
something
he
factual
All
out
right.
of your
he
Bible.
just
Yeah,
doesn't
I
want to try. He just
I
Nah,
pointed
he's just a
something
big
out
mouth
in your
before.
he's a
Bible.
token troll.
it's
He
fact.
wants to just derail
You
the
assume
conversation.
the Bible is
Yeah.
true, so fine. If it's true, God.
By the
proved-
way, what argument do you have other than mocking the Bible? I
Doesn't
mean, where's
have
your
it.
my,
yeah,
my
he doesn't
argument-
have one.
Oh,
He
okay.
already
Wait a minute. You're
admitted he
still
doesn't
talking.
know.
You asked me a question, and you're still talking.
You
Okay.
already admitted you don't
You
know.
talk
Ronin.
over everybody.
Look, all I have is the now. Yesterday's a memory. Tomorrow's a fantasy. All I have is the now. That's accepting reality for what it is, gentlemen. That's how I've lived all my life
Well,
and enjoyed.
That's true. And,
Okay, great. So
Christ
that's-
also says not to plan for the future, so that's actually in line with that.
What do you
Just
mean? You have no evidence of an afterlife. You have none. My reward is right now when I help someone here or I do something kind.
I know
That's
I'm
my
telling the
reward.
truth,
I don't store it up to go into heaven.
and I
I
know
do
you're
it
not
here.
telling
I
the truth, Ronin.
contribute in the now.
I know you're
you don't even
contributing
know how the
to-
universe got here.
to
I don't.
disinformation. You're
I-
you're
look,
contributing.
you believe
to the
you came from
disinformation.
If there's no valid or sound explanation, I don't consider it.
Then why would you believe the Big Bang or multiverses? There's no valid explanation for it.
Yes, there is because they found the information to that point.
No, they didn't.
Yes,
There's
they
nothing before the Big Bang. There's nothing.
again. There's I don't know. Science doesn't know, so we're not.
Oh, all right. So if you
I'm not
truly
gonna-
don't, okay, if you truly don't know, then how do you know there isn't a creator behind it?
There's
Because
nothing you can tell us.
Yeah, you have no answers, buddy. You have no argument.
your words, not mine. You keep interrupting me. You go
No.
on with rhetorical questions.
No, we haven't. No, you have no
refuse-
evidence.
You
haven't-
refuse. You refuse to appropriately label.
We got your Bible mockery. Now move on to something else.
I didn't mock
And
you.
You
I didn't.
realize you're making
No.
yourself look bad, Ronin.
I didn't mock you.
No,
I didn't-
you,
I
mock,
didn't-
you don't. You don't like what the Bible says.
I
We
didn't
got that.
insult you. I didn't insult you for being a theist. You insulted me.
You're making
Okay, you
yourself
don't let people
look
I
scream.
don't
bad.
return that kind of favor.
In the now,
Okay, so we got it. You don't
I'm
like
not-
the
I'm not
Bible. You don't agree
insecure.
with the Bible. Can
I'm
you
not
move
that
on
in-
to a
I'm not
different topic?
insecure. I'm not
Can you-
insecure like you
All
are.
right, shut up. Can you move on to a different topic, please?
Okay, name it. Let's go.
Okay, if you want to talk about science, you
Ronin,
can't keep. If you want to discuss,
Okay. I came up with a theory in science.
See, there's no. Yeah. All right. If you.
I got
If
a
you want-
theory. I got a theory. Here you go. It's original to me, Tony, and everyone else. It's
Well, I
called.
didn't say anything yet.
Well, yeah, because you have to listen to the whole explanation first.
You didn't let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
I said if you want to discuss science, you can't keep going back to the Bible. You have to stay on the topic.
I was going to go to a theory that I came up with. That's different.
Well, I haven't finished my statement.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
If you want to discuss the origin of the universe, you got to stay on that specific topic. If you want to discuss abiogenesis and we're giving you an answer, you can't keep saying, no, that's wrong, and move on to something else. You're not listening. Go ahead.
Okay. This is a theory now. It's called Principia Infinitus, the infinity principle. And that
that's,
principle,
hey, you're stealing that
I'm
from
not
me.
finished. I'm not
You're
finished.
stealing that from me.
And that principle dictates that there is no visible light between 2 points in space. Now, I could give you the science because you're a scientist, but I'm going to skip all of that and go to the test that you can conduct on your own to prove my theory. Here is the test. You get a simple pen light with those AAA battery thingies, and in a lit room or outside on any surface, you light the little light and you go up to the plane, whatever surface, and you'll see a little spot of light. Without changing the axis, you move away from that plane and that spot of light will disappear. I've just proven to you that there is no visible light between 2 points in space. That's from studying all the electromagnetism and physics and all that other stuff. I just came up with that theory, and you can test it on your own after you.
And that proves the universe came out of nothing.
No, it's a theory. There are multiple theories.
Well, first of all, that's not a theory. That would be a speculation. That's a hypothesis.
No, it's a theory because it's already been a hypothesis because you can test it now.
So where did the energy come from?
And you can prove the theory. You can prove my theory by testing it yourself.
Yeah, okay. So the multiverse is not a theory, though, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's possible. The math shows that it's possible.
You know, it's funny how you would believe in infinite universes and not an infinite God. That's what's hilarious.
Again, that's something else, not something that was of origin.
No, we are talking about the origin of the universe. That's what we're on to now.
You assume the conclusion, fine.
I don't assume it. I say it's possible. I don't have 100% proof of God.
So you're doubting your God.
No, of course I've had doubt. I'm honest.
I would like to say one thing, though. It wouldn't necessarily be an infinite God because infinity starts somewhere. It would be an eternal God because eternity has no beginning or end.
Sure, either one.
So,
yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah,
well,
that's the same argument that Lane Craig and John Lennox use. Yeah.
Yeah, it's infinite in all directions.
Right, right. It would be one being that is the entire universe, that created the universe. But the atheist has a similar argument, believe it or not, for the multiverse. They believe in some infinite, eternal mechanism that they can't prove.
Again, you're conflating belief with science.
It all requires power.
Not all atheists are scientists.
Where did the power come from?
Right, I can tell. That's obvious.
Where did the power come from?
No, the mechanism. To be more specific, where did the universe generating mechanism come from?
Yeah, where did the energy come from to make the matter?
Okay, again, that is not science.
That is science. Energy is matter.
No, because you already have an assumed conclusion.
Energy is matter, Ronin. Energy is matter.
In context, you have an assumed conclusion. That's why you're asking.
Matter is energy.
That's why you're framing. That's why you're framing this discussion in the way you are.
Okay, so I can turn that question around on you. I could say, then, are you certain there is no God? Is it impossible or possible?
I'm saying it's impossible.
Well, then you're certain. Then you're the one that has 100% certainty.
You don't even know.
Yeah, because I'm alive and I'm not going to see God in my lifetime. Nor have you.
That's fine, but you haven't given us.
No, nor have the disciples that heard Jesus say.
Stop going back to Jesus.
Nor have the disciples that said, "I'll be back within your lifetime." Okay.
Okay. Well, obviously, I want to talk here. Okay, enough. Quiet, please. Can I talk?
No. You asked me a question. I'm giving you an answer.
No, I didn't ask you. I said, can I talk?
Wait a minute. I said no. I'm going to talk. Okay. You asked me for permission. I declined your request, which means I keep going.
But you have to say something,
I'm being interrupted again.
Yeah, you're not. That's a one-sided conversation, then.
Well, that's what you've been trying to make this all along, haven't you?
You've been talking for a minute and a half.
Thank you for timing me.
Yeah. I got a clock right here.
But how many times was I interrupted?
You interrupt everybody.
Joe, what's up?
Okay, no. This two quote fallacy.
Welcome to the confusion.
It's not working here.
Yeah, back to your certainty question. You claim that we're 100% certain there's a God. I never said that, but you're 100% certain that God's impossible.
Right.
Okay, well, you haven't provided a mechanism for the universe.
Again.
And you don't have to, right?
You would have said yes, God proved abiogenesis. And that
no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the origin of the universe. We're not talking about life right now. You keep going in circles to other topics. Stay with the origin.
Look, I'm trying to play along. Y'all keep doing this. I'm just trying to play along.
Okay, then stay on the origin of the universe. Okay. Where did everything come from?
Okay, as far as science knows, that's how much
you don't have an answer. Right. You admitted 5 minutes ago you don't have an answer, correct?
Right. I don't know.
Right. Okay, let's talk to somebody else now. Let's talk to somebody else.
All right, let's talk to somebody that has a little better education than somebody that...
Doesn't make you right if you say you don't know.
It doesn't make you right.
No, it doesn't make you right if you also say I don't know.
Right, but how does it make you right?
It doesn't. I said I don't know.
Oh, wow, it does it. Look at that. So
But
then
you-
how can you be 100% certain? You just shot down your own argument.
No, because I purposely do this to prove my point to you. Because
To
you
just
said
argue.
it. You said it, and you
Dude.
just stumbled. You said it, and you just stumbled over yourself, realizing
How did I
that you
stumble?
said, "I don't know." You had said, "I don't know," and that's
You
why
don't-
I set this up.
So if you have 100% certainty, you
I
should be able to
don't.
prove.
I don't. You were the ones with
Oh,
the
so you don't
Okay.
either.
Okay, so where's the evidence, Rodin?
So we're right. So then prove us
why are
all
you
wrong.
arguing with me? Why are you arguing
No.
with me? If you
All
assume a
right, all right, let's
conclusion,
stop arguing with
I'm
Rodin.
still looking for it.
How's Jesus the Lord doing? How's Jesus the Lord doing?
No, we don't have to get into Jesus. I'm trying to prove the
No, I
origin of
mean-
the universe.
The Jill, how?
No,
Jill
yeah,
doing?
go ahead.
Those are
Yeah.
user, yeah, sorry.
If he's got it mute. Maybe
If you
he's
want to
busy.
discuss the origin of the universe, you got to stay on that topic. If you're 100% certain there is no God, give us the universe generating mechanism, the naturalistic answer.
Again,
You can't. Okay, so if you can't, listen to me. If you don't have the 100% proof, that means you could be wrong as well. Do you see that?
well, yeah, you're just as wrong. I agree with you.
Okay, then there's uncertainty there.
Okay.
We
No,
both
but
have
he-
uncertainty, so you can't say that you have a coherent theory. You have an assumption that's never been proven. The same thing you would say for God.
Hey, same for you, right?
He
Yeah,
has an
you admitted-
I
explanation.
already
You
admitted
just
that.
admitted. You
He
just
has an
admitted.
explanation.
Yeah, I
You
already
just
admitted that.
You
Yeah.
just admitted that
Uh,
you cannot assume a God. You admitted
didn't
that.
say
That's why
anything
we call it
coherent.
faith.
Okay.
That's why we call it faith.
You
And
didn't
you
say
have the
anything
same
coherent.
Faith is
Yeah.
an emotion. It's of
No,
the
it's not.
mind.
You just admitted that the multiverse couldn't be proven 100%.
Again, it's speculative.
Oh, right. That's what we're saying.
Okay, so God is speculative. Got it.
Yes. That's why
Okay.
it's called faith.
Faith is an emotion.
And so is the speculation for all these infinite universes.
No,
Well,
I
it's
see
part-
faith
it's
more
part
as
of
an action
science.
that we
It's
take,
part of
but that's just
science.
me.
That's
How
part
could
of
it be-
science.
Wait a minute. How could it be part of science? It's if it's an
Because
unproven
science-
hypothesis.
Science makes prediction.
What science? What science? You
There's
didn't give
no
us any
science for multiverses. There's no science.
Again, there are possibilities. There's no
Right, and there's
No,
possibilities of a
science is
There's no
creator.
assumption. There's no absolutes in science.
Science is what you can know and what you can prove. You didn't
Right,
prove anything.
right.
You didn't prove a multiverse there, Ronan,
I didn't want to because I
Right, so
don't
you can't.
because you
I
can't.
don't know. You can't prove a God. Okay,
That's right. That's why it's called faith.
That,
Well, I
again,
can prove-
that's
I
an
can prove
emotion.
And you
power.
have
That's
faith,
an
and you have an
not
emotion,
logic.
right?
It's
And you have an
that's not
okay,
logic. It's an
And
emotion.
you have an emotion in multiverses which have never been proven.
No, your words, not mine. Again, you're being petty just to
Is it a-
justify
Nah,
a stumbling narrative.
You got nothing. You got nothing but
narrative is
yeah.
stumbling.
I know. No,
You're
and you're
constantly
stumbling with your
stumbling here.
multiverse. You got nothing but anger
All
and
you, have
piss
to
and
do, all
vinegar.
you have to do is go back to that old bone that you keep chewing on, and guess what? The bone
Where?
is basically falling apart.
You're just
Yeah, the
trying to
multiverse
derail.
is unproven.
So
trying
what?
to derail the conversation.
what?
That's all
I
Yeah,
don't-
I'm
so what? But it still happened, right?
It's speculative. Again, it is
Right.
speculative.
Right, which has no evidence. Do you know what a
No.
speculation is?
What is it?
Your belief is
It's some-
speculative.
Right, it's a belief.
So is
Speculation
God.
is belief.
Then you assume the same thing with God.
Yeah,
It's
no kidding. And so do you for a multiverse, you
assume
clown.
speculation
Wow.
with God.
And
God
so is the
speculative.
multiverse.
Again,
And so is the multiverse.
God is of the mind. But
And so is the multiverse.
The concept of a multiverse was derived from established math. And
No,
there
it
are
hasn't.
possibilities.
And there's no, and they're all
Possibility.
unproven. And they're all unproven.
Right,
There's
so
no
is God.
detection.
So is-
There's
so is
no
God.
detection
Yeah, so
of
then you-
multiverse. Nobody
Right,
detected
right.
a multiverse.
No multiverse has ever been detected. It's
Neither has
possible
God.
in your mind.
Neither
It's
has God.
possible
Why
in your
would you
mind.
think?
Okay.
Why would people think that
agree
it
with
could be detected if it's something different from us? Why would we think we would be able to detect it at all?
Because we
Even
have-
God said there are things that work in secret.
Oh, that was a question, and you kept talking.
Yeah, you keep talking too.
Because-
You do a lot of talking yourself.
I'm trying to address the question because
And I'm
we
trying to
That
address
honestly
that.
loud over
because
there.
we
Of
have
course it's not it.
because we have higher order thinking skill. We think in the abstract, and there's a lot of possibility in the abstract, and God is
Right,
one of
that's how
them.
they are. You like to
Again,
right.
it's of the mind. It's not in reality.
So God is impossible, but the multiverse is possible.
No, I didn't say that. I said I don't know. You're putting words in my mouth.
Right.
Trying.
Okay. Well, then
But
you're
you're not making
totally.
sense.
Straighten up your stumbling narrative
You're not
here.
making sense, Ronan.
No, because you don't want to reason between the mind and logic or reality.
Okay. Well, logic has told us.
You want to conflate the two things. That's the problem.
Yeah. I know. What's your education, by the way?
I have 2 years of college. My major was music. My minor was in math.
Yeah. You don't know nothing about science. That's the problem.
That's right, because you're not explaining anything. All you're doing is doing a quick search and reading the definition.
I've tried to explain it, but you're
I came
too.
up with my own theory.
Yeah, we can tell.
All you read is definitions. I came up with a theory, and all you do is read definitions.
Yeah, we're talking about actual science, but you're too ignorant to understand it. Maybe you should just play the drums.
Yes, I'm a very good drummer, guitarist, piano player.
Yeah,
player.
but science. Science.
That takes power.
I can write songs. Yeah,
that
so
takes
what?
Power.
Yeah, you're as ignorant as they come, pal. That's the problem.
Where did the power come from?
Which gives me the advantage because I have questions that you cannot answer.
Yeah, well, too. Okay, then why? Yeah, you know, you should talk to PhDs who actually do believe in God. What would you say to them? You're going to school them?
No, because I'll be able to talk to them on a level where they know excuse me, let me finish. They know they've reconciled the difference between the mind and reality, and their spirit. They know the difference of their spirit and the world. They know that.
Well, we don't have any evidence of other universes. Well, we have no evidence of other universes. And so what?
Great.
Well, we do have evidence.
So you admit that, correct?
We do have evidence. There's evidence, Ronan, that everything in the universe requires power that has to come from a greater power.
No, that's a statement. You don't have evidence for that.
No, that's science.
No, where? Okay,
observation.
Post a link. Post a link. I want to link. I want to know the consensus in science.
Okay, Ronan,
you're not an authority on cosmology.
Use your head. Listen to this. You cannot charge your phone unless you have a battery that's got a greater power than what's in your phone. How are you going to get?
I'm not a
how
source.
Are you going to charge your battery?
I'm not a source of energy.
How are you going to charge your battery with an equal amount of power than what your phone has?
You're just a source of ignorance, man.
I can.
It has to be
I can wire up.
You're not listening, Ronan. It has to be an uneven gradient. You're not listening. I'm talking. It has to be an uneven gradient where you have more power on one side than you do on the other side. That's how you charge your phone. Not with an equal amount, not with a less amount. It has to be a greater amount.
Okay.
So all power requires a greater amount.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You don't know. See, the problem is you wanna reject our argument as if your argument has evidence and it doesn't.
Well, again, your argument claims there's a God, and my question is,
how did the power get ordered? Where did the power come from? How did it get ordered?
Again, as soon as light happens,
answer the question.
You don't have light.
If you understand it, answer the question. How did power get ordered? Energy.
Power is not ordered. Power.
If it wasn't ordered, it wouldn't be going to disorder, would it?
Again, power is channeled, like you said, charging a battery. Okay.
It's ordered.
There's a whole.
It means there's more in one place than there is in another place. That's ordered energy.
Yes, but how is it ordered? Is it random? Is it artificial?
No, it's just power. Energy.
Yeah.
So you're not explaining it.
No, I am explaining.
Nothing is going to satisfy you.
Energy.
You've already made up your mind. Do you see what? Yeah. Nothing is going to satisfy you. This is like talking to a child. If I told my child you can't have candy before dinner, all they would say is why 1,000 times. That's you.
Well, yeah, but I played the
why. Yeah.
I played the why question with a child and a few adults, and I kept answering their questions.
Do me a favor, Ronan. Bring a scientist in here for us to talk to him, okay? Because
get a scientist.
Why? Oh, scientists would be inviting you to their hangout, but they're not, are they? Because
I
all
know
you
plenty.
do-
All
you do is share snippets of something you heard.
No, I know
somebody-
plenty of scientists that believe in God. I know plenty of scientists that
So
believe in
what?
God.
Again, they
Okay, then
know-
so what? Then why should we listen to you? You're
So
not an
bring-
authority.
Bring
So
your
what?
scientist.
We
and
don't
for
care
us
what
to-
you say. So what? So what? That's your answer. So
Yeah.
what?
yeah,
Yeah,
because
so what?
because you don't
So
address it.
what?
Could
You
you
don't-
please stop
because you
yelling
don't
so
address
loud?
it. Yeah, so
man? There
what?
are other
Because
people,
you don't
please, dude.
explain it in a
We
satisfactory.
did. There you go in circles.
Bring-
We are
No,
explaining
no,
it.
you're
You don't
just
want to
saying-
understand it.
No, you
Bring
just
a
give me a few
scientist,
words and say
Ronin.
that's your answer.
Bring
Yeah,
us
so
a
what?
scientist.
Yeah, so what?
Bring us
So
a scientist.
what?
Because you're not making any sense, Ronan. So bring us a scientist.
Wait a minute, you're the one that making the claim. I agreed with the claim, and then proved something with your claim, and you said no.
And it's gibberish you're speaking too.
Yeah, you go in circles. You say, so what? Then you say you don't understand it. And you say that 1,000 times.
I know, because you all are playing dumb, and I'm trying to do my best. to
No,
match-
you're too ignorant to understand it. We've explained
Again,
it 9
that's why I
times.
have questions.
Okay, you ready? We're going to answer them.
Go ahead.
We're gonna okay. I mean, and you know what you're gonna say after I say it? So what? Okay, you ready? This is the 10th time. Number 10. We're gonna try for number 10 to get through that thick, stubborn, ignorant skull. You ready? Number 10. Here we go. For the origin of the universe, you have no answers. We claim that there is a God. You're right about that. We haven't proven it. That's why it's called faith. We believe in an infinite, intelligent agent that got the universe going. You believe in some mechanism that is infinite and eternal and just has the ability to produce universes that you can't prove either. You're trying to pass that off as a theory, and it's not. So go ahead. Let's hear your brilliant answer. So what?
Where did the programming coming from?
Exactly. Where did that information come from? He don't have an answer. His answer is going to be, I don't understand it. So what?
Ronan, you're making yourself look bad.
Because he's a fool.
No, you
Bring
always
us a
So what?
no. You're just being petty bullies with
Bring
no,
us.
no
a
Okay,
real
so what do
scientist.
you- what's your answer?
You have no sense of diplomacy or civil mannerisms.
Yeah, but you just keep
You're
doing the same.
You're already answering my the question for me.
Well, that's
really-
what you keep saying.
That's petty. That's petty. No, that's what you go back to when you can't find any other excuse, story, or lie. Okay.
We
Didn't tell us anything,
can't.
Ronan.
no, we didn't give you an excuse. The multiverse is unproven.
My perspective is based on what science can prove.
You
And
didn't
we
say
just told
anything.
you that the multiverse isn't
What
science.
science can explain to me.
You did
Okay,
not explain
you did
anything.
not
You-
explain
You're
the
not
multiverse.
You're not explaining your position by claim.
And
Okay.
you aren't either. Your claim is that the multiverse did it, which has no evidence,
never-
and it's not science.
Again, I said I did not know. You're
Okay,
mixing
then
things-
why-
Okay, so there's
you're
nothing you can
mixing
tell us.
So
things
then
up
you
with
really don't
things.
have an argument then. You're
You're
neutral
being-
agnostic. You don't have an argument.
You're being a little high school.
Nothing. You just admitted you have nothing to tell us. Bring us a
Yeah,
scientist.
the
Bring
guy's
us
a waste of time. Yeah, bring us a scientist. Go back to music, clown.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. And what do you got? So what? You don't understand it.
Ad hominem.
That is still an appeal to freaking education, which isn't right either. You're making a fallacy when you say that.
Okay,
as
but
well.
then if
That's
he's going to
real
be an
correct.
authority, if he's going to be a judgment call or an authority on the multiverse, he's got to show his background in physics. If he's going to if he's what you took classes in music and you want to be an authority on cosmology?
Are you a professor in cosmology?
No, but I have a background in
There you
chemistry.
There you go. Congratulations.
Right, but
Thank you. That's a good example of a Christian, humble Christian, should I say.
Okay, and what are you?
I'm a human being.
Yeah, show
Right,
us
with
an
no answers.
example. Show us
With
an
no
example
answers.
of what a Christian should be like.
What? Jesus said to pray in your
Right
closet.
here,
Jesus said to be humble.
right here.
Jesus said to
I
let
try
your
at
light
least.
so shine before man, not onto them.
So
He
you
said
have the
before
truth. You
man.
have the
Okay,
truth.
so then
Where's
bring
the
us a
humility?
scientist.
Where is the humility?
Do you have the truth?
Why
Do you
humility?
have the truth, Ronan? do
Okay,
you
so
have
if
the
we
truth?
brought you a scientist that believed in God, what would you say?
I'd like to talk to him because I know I could talk to him on his level, and I get him to
Well-
agree that he reconciled
Ronan, don't make us laugh.
the mind
Oh, come on,
and
man.
reality.
There's Nobel Prize winners in science that believe in God. You're not at their level.
Again, you said, what if you brought him here? I said, I want to talk to him. I didn't
Yeah,
say
and what would you do?
I was a
Right.
fellow professor. I said,
Okay.
I
Ronan,
can
you're not even
understand
talking to us
where
on our
he's coming
level. You're not even talking to us on our level. You're speaking gibberish.
Okay. What do you
No.
want to do?
I
Yeah.
beg to differ.
That's petty bully for you. That's what you're doing.
Speaking
You're not trying
gibberish,
to
Ron.
understand anything. You're not trying to be
saying
open-minded.
Oh,
You're
whoa,
not
whoa,
trying
whoa,
to
whoa! Wait a minute.
question
You're
your
not
own
open-minded.
position.
We're not open-minded.
You're
How
not
are we not
saying.
open-minded?
No, of course not.
You're
You
not
believe in
saying-
God. You can't be open-minded.
You're not
Yeah,
saying
that would be
poison is
open-minded.
You
poison.
cannot be open-minded if you believe in God. Remember, you have
Yeah.
one dictate, and that's the only thing you follow. Don't be a hypocrite. I'm being supportive of you.
Don't yell.
Yeah, you're as ignorant as they come.
Again, that's why I have questions. I'm
And
ignorant.
you don't
I
want to
admit
hear
it.
them.
I
You don't
admit
want to
it.
listen to
I
answers.
have
You're
questions.
trying to
Okay,
tell
we
us
have
something,
questions.
Ronan. You don't have questions.
No, you have statements, and when you have questions, you keep talking.
Yeah, okay, so what started everything? You don't know, but you're certain
I
it
was
wasn't God.
invited in here. I was invited in. That's what started
All right,
everything.
calm down, dude. Be quiet for a
Wait a
minute.
minute. I love the drama, dude. I love
it
the
easy.
drama.
Yeah, you
I'll
like
tell you what,
throwing a
I'll
monkey
go
wrench
to
into
a
the
simple
conversation.
tone and see how you respond to that.
Yeah,
After you.
Well, it's amazing how you want to have you want these questions to be answered, but you don't listen.
I disagreed with the answer because it was
And I
not,
disagree with yours.
I was not finished with my statement.
You're never finished, but you don't have an answer for the origin of the universe.
Again, I said I don't know. That's
Right.
my
And you're
Well,
not
there's nothing.
open-minded to a creator, correct?
right. Because if it was a
Yeah.
creator, if I was a creator, he would have done a good job and not regretted
He
making it.
did. So
he,
you
he
have
wouldn't
hatred.
have made. He wouldn't have made a Ronin.
6:6, I believe. God
Yeah, you want to
God
Right.
regretted making it.
Technically-
A good creator wouldn't have made a
technically,
Ronin.
Oh, never mind.
It's like an unwanted child.
A good
That would be
creator
you.
wouldn't have made a Ronin, right?
That was Genesis 6.
Let's hear from somebody else. Let's hear from a couple other people in the chat. Anybody else here?
See if Joe. Does Joe have the microphone yet? On. Jesus is Lord.
Yeah, it really, honestly, Ronan, no matter what we say, you're going to disagree with. So you're not open to anything but strict materialism.
Right.
I wouldn't say I would go as long.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
What I was
open-
going to say is, what I was going to address to you, Ronan, was I wouldn't say it's not like an unwanted child, but a child you put all your hopes and faith for, but never prospers, because the child is just being the child, and there's nothing you can do about it. Even though you work, you put your heart and soul into, and it's for naught. The bad fruits are just there, so to speak.
Well, yeah, but you're God's children, and He regretted making you. Remember, your belief system does not apply to me. I respect it because I
Of course not.
understand. I understand it's another feeling of another culture.
Speak for yourself, Ronan.
But
I would say he regretted.
Your biblical
He regretted making the ones prior to the flood, not the ones after. So that's where I think the correction would lie. It would be the ones that were dead he regretted, not the ones that come after.
Yeah, don't make him regret you.
Again, it doesn't apply to me. Other belief systems have their gods and their way of explaining it, and I respect them too.
And you have your belief system.
Right. So that's okay. I mean, I just think differently. That's nothing. There's nothing
Lack
right or
of
wrong.
belief system.
Yeah, you have a belief system that there is no God. You don't know with certainty.
Right. And you can't prove it with certainty. That's the flip
Yeah.
side of the coin. Okay, we're good.
Okay, so then are we done? We're done here?
I don't know. You're the one wanting to, keep
Something happened in your life, or you have some sort of hatred that you just aren't
There
open
you go,
to.
assuming things.
Okay, so then why couldn't there be a God?
I just told you that I respect a different belief system.
Oh, okay, thank you. So
You just want to derail the conversation. That's all.
right,
No,
right.
I know that their belief system is of the mind also.
Well, what other mind will we have? Everybody has a mind. I mean, what would you base it on? Alien minds? I mean, well, what are you basing your thought process on?
Reality. What
And-
I can
and-
observe. What can
And
I
I just right, and you can't observe a multiverse.
Yeah, the
You can't
reality is
observe.
there's no multiverse.
Again, your God and another God is the same God to everyone. It's no different. It's in your mind, and I can respect that because we have feelings first.
No, I never said I had 100% proof of God.
Right. And I said I don't know about a multiverse or the origin
Okay,
of the
so
universe.
Okay, good. So are we done here? What else you want to discuss?
I was open to any other topic. Would
No,
you
you're not open to anything, really. You're going to go back to Jesus and the Bible.
now you keep pressing on this, even
Okay,
though
so then
you want to change topic.
no, we were on the origin of the universe, and
Can we ask
So
Illuminati?
you
all right,
say
Jargon, you want to?
No
Yeah,
one else
Jargon,
has
you want
a
to?
mic?
Yeah, what's that? What happened to Illuminati?
I don't know.
No idea. Maybe he popped out. Maybe bad internet issues.
So is
Shalom.
that all you can do? Is oh, Jill's here.
Hey, Joe.
Shalom, Jill.
Not
what's up?
much.
I see Ronan's being Ronin, huh?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I was just listening for the past 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yep. Derailing
Hey,
the
Jill.
conversation like always.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I wanted to bring something
Who's
to
that,
Joe.
G-Man?
It's Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, when you do your live stream, is it going to be open, or are you just doing like a peer review? I was just curious.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up at, did I say 6 or 7?
In a couple of hours or something, like an hour or two.
Yeah, so
Hey,
that's at 7.
Jargon, I'm going to be debating on standing for truth for Abiogenesis, so we're going to be talking about that a lot, the origin of life.
All right, I hope it's going to be a meaningful conversation, a more intelligible conversation.
Yeah, we're going to get more technical into the chemistry, but I don't think this. I said we're going to get more technical into the chemistry. I don't know if this audience is, up for that.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
yeah.
Joe, could you do me a favor too? Sorry. Could you look at my most recent upload for me and tell me what you think of it? Not right now, but later. That'd
Who's
be
it?
cool.
Who's that? Is that Joe?
It's
No.
one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a
Oh,
look
yeah.
at it. I was about to, I don't know if it's at 7 or 8, but I was going to review your to eat or not to eat video, Tog.
So yeah, that's cool. I can't wait to, like I said, I'll be there. If I didn't, that's why I was asking to see if you were going to open up the live chat.
Oh, yeah. So
Okay.
open it up. Maybe
All right,
after
cool.
like a half hour.
All right, cool. Well, I'll be there. I'm still at work, so yeah, whenever you start it, go ahead. 'Cause
Was
I'll be
that-
at work. I'm still at work right now.
Oh, okay. Was
So,
that
yeah,
your
but I'll
latest,
watch it.
was that your latest upload that you were talking about?
Yeah, it's called, I forgot. It's like he will not be something or something like that. I forgot what it says.
Oh, okay. So this one I'm looking at is not your latest one.
It's called He Will Not Struggle or He Will Not Cry or something like that. No
Oh.
cry. Yeah.
Jargon, are you going to debate Snake again? Because we were talking about the origin of life with him. Yeah, he's the one, the younger guy. He admits there's no evidence anyway. He's a little more honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
He
willing
will-
to discuss with anybody, but I've already
Yeah.
talked to Snick.
Yeah, he's pretty. He doesn't want. He admits there's no evidence yet. He'll still deny a creator. I gave him the protein argument, which is still a disaster. By the way, PhD James Torr debated Lee Cronin, and Cronin's a top origin of life chemist, and he had nothing for the origin of life. So
Of course not.
yeah,
Of course,
Exactly.
they don't have anything. I mean,
no, they don't have nothing. I know.
even the physicists don't have anything. These, cosmologists, they don't have anything.
No, well, they don't know anything about chemistry anyway.
They have to have, an origin for the energy that made the universe, and they don't.
Well, they got the multiverse hypothesis, which has no proof.
And they don't even know how it got ordered, the
Right.
energy in the universe.
Right.
So they don't have anything to tell us. They don't have any answers.
Yeah. They really don't. Other than their guesses and beliefs.
But do you provide evidence?
Yeah, I follow the evidence. I follow the energy. And energy has to come from a greater energy, which has to come from an infinite energy
Right.
potential.
Right. And you can't have an infinite regress.
Okay, what is the test for that?
The test is
Matter
what I
itself.
just showed you. I just told you that you can't charge your cell phone with anything other than a greater power.
No, that's
What? Not what? What?
that's not what you're saying. You said from a greater power. What is the greater power?
Yeah, it's a unequal gradient energy gradient. You have to have more energy on one side than the other side in order to charge your cell phone. It's called an uneven gradient or energy potential.
Okay,
In other words, you have more protons or electrons on one side than you do on the other, and they flow from one battery to another, and then equalizes, and that's what charges your phone.
okay, you're explaining the transfer of energy. How was the
Yeah. And so do
greater?
you understand it has to be
What?
like
Okay,
it's like imagine two cups of water. The water has to be higher on one cup in order to fill up the other cup that's empty, but then it equalizes, and it can only equalize. It can't, the energy can't go from one cup to another. It can only equalize.
okay, but the thing I'm
But
getting, but the thing
but
but the thing I'm getting at is that you keep saying that. I agree. That's right. How did that process begin? That's the
Well, he's trying to relate that to the origin of the universe, that there has to
yeah,
be a certain point where there was an absolute beginning.
right.
but
So,
again.
Because matter
well,
is energy.
you can, by the way, Ronan, you can invoke all your multiverses. That's fine, but you got to get to a
Again,
point.
you're going on with that multiverse thing where I said I don't know, and
Okay, then so what do you
you're
want to
assuming.
argue?
In other
So what
words,
is there to
you,
argue about?
Yeah,
What are you
what is there
talking
to
about?
debate
do
then?
you
Okay,
actually
okay.
lack creativity to look around and consider other things? Because
Yeah,
God,
like God,
If you
which you
have
won't consider.
something, if you have something, you
all
don't
you go
have
to,
anything.
all you're going to is insult, and that's not very.
No, it's not an insult.
No,
You don't have anything to tell us.
right. All
It's
right.
just a
All
matter
right,
of
guys.
fact.
Again, explain to me how the origin of the origin happened.
Why don't you explain it?
Wait a minute,
You don't understand.
Darwin's statement.
You don't
I don't know.
understand what an
I already
infinite
told
Okay.
you.
potential is.
I already told you that I go based on reality, what science
Right, and you don't know,
can explain to me.
An
right?
infinite, eternal God doesn't have an origin, Ronan.
Well, how did that happen? How did that origin of the origin happen?
It doesn't have an origin. It always was. It
Okay, you
always existed. That's the definition of God. He's eternal.
okay.
He's infinite
Again,
power, infinite potential.
again, that's of the mind, of feeling.
No, it's not. It's what the evidence shows, Ronan.
That's not evidence because you keep saying
It
that
is
your
evidence. It is evidence that all energy requires a greater amount of energy.
Look, your evidence is faith. That's a feeling. I accept
It's
And-
that.
not. It's
and-
science. It's observed.
No,
what's
you
observed.
cannot cite papers right now,
Yes, I can.
peer-reviewed papers, right? A
Yes, I
consensus
can.
from science that claims
It's science.
what you just said.
That if you try
Uh,
to charge your phone, you have to use a battery that has more electrons on one side than what you have in your phone.
Makes sense. Yes, I agree.
Yes. Okay. So
yeah,
where did
so
that
that makes sense,
battery?
but not a create. It's like,
Where did that battery get its electrons from? It got its electrons from a greater energy, right? Right?
But
Right?
yeah, but
Right?
it could be a lesser energy
Yeah.
because
No, it can't. It can't be equal. It can't be less. It can't be
charging
equal.
something,
Right.
charging
Yeah, but we're
It
the ones
cannot
closed
be
off.
equal, Ronan. It can't be
charging
less. It
something
can't
is
be.
cumulative.
You don't know science, Ronan. You don't know
Yeah.
science.
Charging
yeah,
something
that's
is
obvious.
cumulative. It's not instantaneous.
Let's hear Illuminati.
You don't have to be. He's obviously
Illuminati,
closed
you
his
got
mind
something?
off.
You got something on your mind, Illuminati?
I was just listening in, seeing what y'all talking about.
Hey, Illuminati, you're the one. I think I talked to you a little bit on Standings channel. You're the atheist over there.
Nah, that probably wasn't me then. It was an atheist.
So,
Oh, are
so-
you were on Standing the other night?
Maybe. I
Yeah.
jump in his chat. I jump in his stream every now and then.
Yeah, we were talking about abiogenesis. You know, you're familiar with all the problems with the origin of life.
It might have been me. I don't really talk about abiogenesis.
so,
that
so what's
much.
your idea? What's your idea of how the universe got started? Or
I have no
life?
clue.
okay,
Okay. All right. So basically, you guys don't know.
Therefore, God.
No, therefore God would be a possibility. I didn't
no,
say therefore.
therefore a cause.
Yeah, a cause, some sort of infinite being or something, energy that got it going. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem granting that there.
Oh,
could
so
be
you believe in
some
gods?
creator.
So you believe in gods?
Who's talking? Was that Illuminati?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm stepping on them. Don't worry.
Okay.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
don't don't believe there's some sort of deity, but I don't have a problem with the possibility of one being there.
Yeah, that's pretty much my position. I argue from a sort of deistic, intelligent design. I don't talk about the Bible. I don't have to.
Yeah, creation
Yeah,
is
I wouldn't
evident.
either.
Creation is evident. That's what the evidence shows.
Well, that sound is that Illuminati that was just talking? Yeah, that sounds pretty. I guess a little more reasonable.
Yeah, that was me. That's
Intelligent design was proven wrong in federal court.
Lawyers don't know anything about science.
Yeah.
But they had scientists.
And they proved something else. They proved that they were trying to get creation into the classroom. They didn't disprove creation or intelligent design. They proved that they were trying to get it into the classroom. That's what they proved.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, just like you couldn't get a paper on capitalism in North Korea, that wouldn't be allowed either.
They didn't disprove the intelligent
No,
design
nobody-
or the watch
Right. And no one has proven the origin of the universe.
There's no basis for intelligent design.
There's no basis for multiverses, yet that's discussed as scientific.
You didn't study Kitzmiller versus the Dover Board of Education.
I read the whole thing.
Yeah,
I
that's
read the
with
whole
Stephen
thing.
C. Meyer. I know all about it. Yeah, I actually did study that one.
Yeah, I read the whole
Okay,
thing.
so intelligent design was proven wrong.
No,
By a bunch of lawyers.
Again,
To get it into
the only
curriculum.
thing they proved, Ronan, was that they were trying to get creation into the classroom.
What lawyers do is manipulate resource, and a resource could be an actual scientist or a doctor or just a plain witness. That's
Yeah, plenty of doctors.
That was a resource that was presented in court hearings and disproved intelligent design.
No, it has not been disproven.
Again, in a federal court hearing. Hey, Kate, and I
Go back and read it, Ronan, then come back talk to us.
No,
Yeah.
you're just trying to rewrite history. It's not working.
Go back
No,
and
we
read
haven't
it.
rewritten anything. Intelligent design is growing all over the globe. Plenty
Go
of
read
scientists.
Again,
believe in God.
that's just a relabeling of Christianity. That's all that is.
And you have a
do us a
relabeling
favor.
of atheism, strict materialism, and you're the one that's so open-minded.
Do us
Right.
a favor, educate yourself, go read the case again.
Do you understand the difference between the word typical and atypical? It's the same
Do
thing
you?
as saying theist and atheist. I am not a theist, but
Yeah,
also I don't make a claim other than
You're a
that.
derailer. That's what you are, Rowan.
Yeah,
You're-
it's
you're
just a
derailer.
circular argument where you like to repeat the same talking narrative.
No, you're the one.
You like to come in with the crowbar and tear everything up. That's what.
I'd like to talk to Illuminati. Hello?
Yeah, we like to talk somebody.
What's up?
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we were discussing the
How's it going?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
You would admit the multiverse is not proven in any way and is lacking evidence?
Not sure why it would be proven, but what do you mean by it's not proven?
You know what the multiverse is, right? The bubble
Yeah,
universes.
Well, I'm saying, do you prove? Is it the goal to prove theories?
Well, we can
Or
prove
is
a
it,
lot of
or is
things.
it the goal? Or is it the goal to give
Well,
evidence?
let's
that
put it
supports
this way.
and gives us strength.
Let's put it this way. This
Okay.
universe is supposed to be one of many millions of universes, which require power. So where did all the power come from for all the universes?
Yeah, the multiverse.
I don't know.
I mean,
Okay.
making an appeal to other universes
Yeah, you
doesn't
can-
explain anything.
Right. It really doesn't. It's kind of the atheist escape mechanism. Multiverses are completely unproven, untestable, and unobservable. There's no way to access these other universes that supposedly exist.
Tony,
You don't
do you
even
have
know.
any? Tony, do
Yeah.
you have any research that you could link on the multiverse?
Yeah. Yeah, I have plenty of scientists that reject it.
No,
It's more
I'm
of a-
not saying that rejected. I'm just saying, do you have any just research on it?
Oh, personally, no.
It's just
Or-
an
No,
not
idea.
you,
It's
not
not
you.
even, but it's not even science though. It's just an idea.
Yeah, it's more
What
of
do you
a.
mean what do you mean it's not? Wait, what?
It's not
It's highly-
science.
Yeah, it's highly speculative. All these millions of other universes that supposedly may exist.
What? Okay.
It's just an idea.
Is
That
that
they don't know
hypothesis
where
science?
life came from. They don't know where this universe came
Is a
from. So they
hypothesis part of science?
So they appeal to another universe, another higher.
It can be
Force
part
of
of science, but it's still a guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then your point about, well, it's not science is
No,
kind of
because
irrelevant.
it's not observed.
Right,
Science
it's
has to be
unobserved.
observed
Again,
What's your biggest
what is a hypothesis?
or detected. It has to be detected.
hypothesis? Is a guess
and
based off
would you
no
say
real
that's
evidence.
that's part of science?
No, it'd be a guess.
Well,
I could say,
you have to be an
Hypothesis is not-
educated guess.
yeah, I could say there's an intelligent design hypothesis. Would you accept that? No,
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't.
I'm asking you.
No, you said no.
I'm
answered
saying,
for
would
me.
you say no?
Oh, would I say no? No.
Right. So that could be part of science, that there is an intelligent being outside this universe. You don't know that there isn't.
There are people that are actively researching or trying to research for a young Earth. Or
I didn't say young Earth.
Yeah,
I just said.
I changed.
I'm not getting into the young Earth.
No, there are people that are actively researching it.
Researching
Yeah.
what?
Would you, for example, abiogenesis, there's no evidence of life from non-life. What we've shown in the lab is that it takes a mind to produce, genetic information under very manipulated, controlled conditions.
What are they trying to do in those conditions?
They're
When
trying.
an intelligent mind manipulates, in your words, the conditions, what are they trying to do?
They're trying to produce life, but the problem is they're not mimicking.
What
And
are
they-
they trying to do with the conditions?
They're trying to produce life.
They're trying to replicate what they
They're not-
think the conditions were.
Well, they're not succeeding for one
They're
thing.
not succeeding, and they're not mimicking the early Earth. They actually do know the conditions of the prebiotic Earth, and they can't even produce proteins under those conditions.
What I'm saying is the way you state that is that let's say.
Do you know the Miller experiment?
Let's say that life is created, right?
Right.
You would you say, well, see, look, it took intelligence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're misrepresenting it, because all the intelligence is doing is trying to recreate the conditions that were there.
And they're not. And I'm telling you that they're not. With a chemistry background, I can tell you.
You're not understanding.
Okay, I'm going to explain it to you. You ready?
No, you don't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. You
Explain
think
to me what I just said. Tell me what I just said.
Because you think the conditions that they're replicating are mimicking the early Earth, and they're not.
That's not my point.
Well,
That's
what's your
our
point?
My point is that you're saying, oh, well, it takes intelligence to produce this life if they do.
Because
Right.
you have to get the conditions to relate to the early Earth, and if they don't, then you're violating your hypothesis.
And they can't get any formation.
What I'm saying is, in order to test that, you have to replicate the conditions that were there before.
Right, and they
So
fail.
so the conditions now aren't the same as then. So you're going to have somebody go back to those conditions.
Oh, so that's making your side even worse.
That's what
Hold
they're
on.
By the
trying
way-
to do.
Isn't that with the assumption that life started on the Earth, correct?
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to replicate the
Right, and
early
do you know what they
conditions.
get? Do you know what they get when they replicate early Earth conditions? They get tars and useless racemic molecules. They can't even get proteins. So
No
it's a big
protein.
problem.
And you know what
Yeah.
protein is, right? It's a sequenced, concatenated.
It's a sequencing of all
Amino-
it's all left-handed amino acids that have to be folded in such a way.
It has to be sequenced, and then it has to be folded.
And
You know-
prebiotic chemistry can't achieve that.
And,
They've
and
tried.
they never
Never.
got a single protein.
No, never close.
So why don't people just conclude that life didn't? Is that what then it is? That they conclude that life didn't start on this Earth then?
You
life
can
comes
push
from
it to
before
other
it?
planets. You
That's
can
why
push
it's
it to
a-
other planets, but that's not. I mean, yeah, you can do that. That's not. You're never going to solve anything by doing that.
That's why they're appealing to other
universes.
extraterrestrial life or
Right,
other
aliens.
universes.
Because the problem is so severe. The origin of life is such a disaster, and they know it.
They know it.
You guys think aliens are real?
No, I personally don't, but it's
But-
possible.
But they're
I'm
they have
open-minded.
to believe it. They have to believe in aliens. So
Right.
they're looking for aliens because they have to have aliens.
They're looking for other intelligent life for the origin of the universe to eliminate God. So they're invoking aliens.
Which it doesn't solve the problem anyway.
Right.
How
So
do you
where did the
research
aliens
God?
come from?
Where did the
How do
aliens
you
come
research
from?
God?
You can't. It's
Okay,
faith.
so then we shouldn't.
How do you
any
research
kind of
aliens?
research.
How do you
should
research
kinda
aliens?
You
How do you-
search the
You
universe?
Okay, have you found any?
Hold up. I would like to say you research God by living the way, the truth, and the life. Just saying.
Okay, but hold on. Have we found any evidence of aliens?
I don't know. You want me to do a search real quick? I'm not near
Well,
my
on
computer,
Google?
but I can.
All right. You got a spaceship? I'm just messing with you.
Well, it also depends on what you consider life and all that
cell.
too, like
A
sentient
cell
life
that
and all that.
metabolize them? Yeah, we're talking about a single cell that metabolizes, reproduces, and dies.
Yeah, a single cell.
Yeah, they've come up with protocells, but they're all alive. And again, that's done under such highly controlled conditions that it's just a joke. It doesn't relate to the early Earth. They also take bits and pieces from other donor cells.
And they can't even reverse engineer a cell anyway.
They've tried, but what they wind up doing is when they reverse engineer a cell is they put all the parts back in a lipid membrane and it's still dead. It doesn't come alive.
See?
They take DNA and RNA out of other cells and they insert it into other membranes and everything's there needed for a cell and it's just dead.
It's missing components.
Yeah, well, it's missing that spark of life.
And they
Yeah.
don't know what's missing because there's
Well-
more information than just the DNA. The actual
Right.
zygote has information of its own. It's all kinds of signaling and all kinds of, protein signaling and everything.
Yeah, Illuminati. I suggest you watch James Torrey. He's a PhD chemist. He just debated Lee Cronin, and Lee Cronin.
PhD.
Yeah, and Cronin's a top origin of life chemist, and he has nothing for the origin of life. A bunch of failed experiments. It's a
Yeah.
Google. It's a YouTube debate.
Oh yeah. Would
Yeah.
you be happy if all these researchers just stopped
Well,
researching and just said God did it?
How about if
No,
we go watch
I
it?
No, I would want them to continue their research because you know what it's proving? It's proving that it takes a mind to manipulate all this stuff. So it's actually
What
great.
if they all just believed and just said God did it?
No, they wouldn't have to. They're just proving that it takes a mind to do it.
No, what I'm saying is, would you be happy if people researching
No,
just stop?
No, I would want the research to continue. I would actually hope that they produce life. I actually want that. And all that would do would strengthen the intelligent design hypothesis that
All
it
that
takes a
would do
mind.
is say that humans can do what God did.
No, that would be a mind. If I gave you all the parts to an automobile, could it self-assemble without a mechanic? Yeah,
phone
silence. You got a phone call?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, if I gave you all the parts to an automobile, would it self-assemble without a mechanic?
Of course not.
Right. So then why would you think all the chemicals could purify themselves and stabilize themselves and link together
Are there
naturally?
chemical reactions?
Yeah, those reactions wouldn't happen.
Okay,
And,
so
and
there are-
They're directed
They're-
chemical
they're-
reactions.
right. For
Are there
example,
reactions when certain chemicals get next to each other?
They're
only when they're in
directed.
pure form. There's
Okay, so there are. So there are.
Yeah,
So
when
if I
they're in
have-
purified
if I have
form.
all of the parts. So if I have all the parts of a car in a garage
Yeah.
in pure form, quote unquote, there's not going to be a reaction. So that's a
Right,
useless
because
example.
car parts don't
No.
make themselves. Car
Yeah, 'cause
parts don't
car-
make
yeah, the car-
themselves.
The
and
car
proteins-
manufacturers, the car manufacturers wouldn't
Okay,
need
you don't
mechanics.
Proteins don't make themselves either.
Exactly.
So you're hoping that humans create
No, no.
life?
You're
Tony?
hoping that proteins make
Oh, yeah.
themselves and order themselves and assemble themselves and direct
Right.
themselves.
But let's go back to the car analogy. Yeah, it is interesting. The car analogy. So you think
No,
nuts
that's not
and
interesting.
yeah. So okay. Oh well, I want to keep going with that. You think nuts and bolts could assemble themselves without a
How many
mechanic?
times do I have to say no to that?
Okay. So then why would you think that chemicals
We've
could
already got.
purify?
Okay, we're not going to keep going in circles. We've already been
Car
down there.
parts don't
All
make
right.
themselves.
I would say it depends. Like, are you? Because I'm a little bit confused here. Are you talking about like if God sets up the universe and the universe is dependent within on itself just by the word of God and him having set it up, that it's self-efficient and it can rely on itself to self-produce and take care of itself. So without God it being just giving the word all, is he still interactive? I'm getting confused here on what exactly you guys are talking about.
We're talking about the prebiotic soup, which is supposedly supposed to self-assemble. All the chemicals in the soup are supposed to react and self-assemble into the first cell. They've never actually shown that. What they have shown is that it fails in many different ways. You follow?
I guess, yeah, I was misunderstanding everything. I thought you were talking like
Okay,
you
well,
were talking about origin of life. I'm thinking about creation in a whole. So yeah, that's the difference.
yeah, we're talking about specific abiogenesis. The oceans were filled with a chemical soup, and in that soup, all these reactions took place. You had purified amino acids, which are never found in nature, but that's what the atheists think. They were in pure form, and they self-assembled into the first proteins. Proteins linked up with RNA. We have no clue how RNA formed prebiotically. Nobody's ever shown that. They can manipulate it in a lab under very controlled conditions. Again, this is all manipulation. This would all have to take place on a harsh prebiotic earth. And again, when we set up those conditions in the lab, they fail.
And they can't sequence themselves anyway.
They can't. They have to have an intelligent chemist purify amino acids using very, very high-tech equipment.
And amino acids switch around anyway.
They switch around. They're stereo scrambled. They're both right.
I have a question. When they do these tests, do they do it with just the everything is the same on the surface, like within the water, or they limit the temperature of the earth and everything else around that?
Oh, they control everything. Yeah, I can send you a paper on that. But they don't start with a random pot of chemicals. They put in exactly what they want. Because they want to get the desired results. They know what they're doing. They're intelligent chemists.
And it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, they still can't bring it to life. Like I said, they've taken lipids and they've put in RNA and DNA and protein, functional proteins, and the cell is the cell is still dead. All right, guys. Anything else?
Well, that settles it pretty much.
Yeah, that abiogenesis is a mess. So good luck with these guys, Jargon. I'll catch you on standing. All right, brother?
All right.
All right, brother.
Great talking.
Yeah.
The Bible proves abiogenesis, man. I keep telling you.
Oh, you're going back to that, huh? Right back to that. Wow.
Did God blow life into dirt to create Adam? That's abiogenesis.
Hey, Ronin, you believe you came from stardust. You believe you came from stardust.
We are stardust, man.
Yeah, well, how did that self-assemble into the first cell?
So why does everyone always go to Adam when God made animals and trees beforehand? Like, wouldn't we want to go point to the trees first? Like,
we point to the first cell.
The chemicals.
The chemicals. How did the chemicals come alive to the first cell? We've just told you that it doesn't work. No scientist has ever come close. Okay, amino acids don't come in pure form in nature.
You leave out the word yet. Science.
I know. Tomorrow they're gonna.
Science is still looking. You guys.
Okay.
Left-handed amino acids.
You all have assumed the conclusion, but science is still looking.
Okay, let me know when you have it, because they set up conditions in the lab and they still can't do it, and they're highly manipulated.
100 years ago, we didn't have the internet, man. So
talking about today.
Well, today they're still building. Everybody is still building.
Yeah. So if a chemist engineered life in the lab, you would say that it took no intelligence.
Again, we're building.
Who? Yes.
Building process where you have assumed the conclusion.
No, I didn't assume it. I'm looking at what the chemistry says. Chemistry says that amino acids come in a stereo scrambled racemic mixture. That's what the chemistry is telling me.
Okay. Again, it's building on
the conclusion, Ronin.
Right.
There is no conclusion in science. There are no absolutes in science. Science is still discovering things.
And they're not making progress in the origin of life, but you could think that.
They're not making progress.
They're making no progress in protein folding.
I think it went right over your head, Ronin.
Pretty much.
So Jesus had vaccines.
Oh, back to Jesus again. Here we go. Back to the Bible. We're talking about abiogenesis.
Again, God proved it in the Bible.
It doesn't matter if you're talking about the Bible, if you're talking about science.
We're talking about an intelligent agent doing it. There's a big difference.
You're relabeling God. That's all you're doing.
You're relabeling your belief, which doesn't have evidence.
Again,
you are relabeling.
I had questions, and I know science is still looking. It's still working.
Okay, so
you've assumed the conclusion, And again, you can't even prove what your claim is about.
Right.
That's
There's nothing
the
you can tell us.
We've just told you how chemistry works. So if you want to deny that and just
No, you didn't.
No.
You haven't.
yeah, we did. We just told you how proteins
didn't.
fold.
What
Maybe
you're,
you did,
what
but you
you're
didn't.
saying is chemistry can do no more. And I'm
Yeah.
saying
So you want to push it to other planets and aliens? That's fine. You believe in your fantasy environment for abiogenesis that's never been
we
shown.
already have aliens here. It's called bacterium. We have bacteria from
No, that's not an
meteorites,
alien.
man.
And where did it
We
come
have
they're-
from?
bacteria
They're
from
not
meteorites.
bacteria.
Where
No,
did it
that
come
And
wasn't.
bacteria is a life form, okay?
Where did it come from?
It came from Mars.
How did it get programmed? How did bacteria get more programmed?
Yeah. How did it happen out there?
This
Again,
is that SFT University.
but you can't explain your origins, yet you want to complain about someone else's standards.
You don't have an answer. You just admitted you don't have an answer for the origin of the universe.
Again, neither do
He
you.
doesn't have one yet.
We
Okay,
You
yeah, I
admit-
know.
you
You guys-
admitted
you guys
that
have
earlier.
faith that it's going to be proven one day by
You-
some natural process.
You admitted that earlier.
we know it has programming, and we know programming doesn't write itself from
Right.
memory layer.
Where has a language code ever written itself?
It's called chemical reactions.
And I just told you that they don't come in pure form.
Correct.
Again,
For the-
you don't know. We don't know. Science is still.
Yeah, I know,
looking.
right? And you're so close-minded to a creator.
Again, you can't prove a creator. You'd convince me right now if you
What the evidence shows.
if you had a test right now, and I could conduct that test independent of you,
Yeah.
and it
We just
explains
did
to me-
in the
and
chemistry.
it
Yeah,
explains
but
to
you're not
me
listening,
that a
Ronin. You're
God
not listening.
exists.
If
I
I
change my
took-
mind. I'll change my mind as soon as
Okay.
you provide evidence.
It went
If-
right over your head. Went. "Ooh."
Yeah. Pretty
Again, you
much.
have to base it on your emotions, a feeling, faith.
No,
You're
no, it's a
projecting. You're
fact.
projecting.
It's
not-
a fact
it's
that
not
amino
reality.
acids.
Not reality.
No, it's,
You
No, it's a-
have the emotion. We have the
It's an
science.
emotion.
You have the emotion. You
no,
have
it's a
the
fact.
emotion.
Okay. It's a fact that amino acids in nature are totally racemic. That's a fact of chemistry.
Okay.
So now,
Again, you've assumed the conclusion. Science is
No.
still looking.
It's a fact.
Science is still
No,
discovering
that's
a lot of things.
okay. So it's in some environment that you think it will be discovered. You have faith that proteins, that chirality will be solved.
I accept the information available.
And we
You're-
don't have
again-
any that has ever shown proteins
Okay,
form.
Again, not
The
yet.
information.
Not
the
yet, right?
information,
So, yeah.
Not
Is
yet.
that
Remember, you're
amino
still,
acids
you're-
don't appear.
no, you're again.
only left-handed.
You're still assuming the conclusion where science
No,
is
we're
still
telling you
going.
they don't appear only left-handed. They appear left-handed, right-handed. they
Okay,
switch back
great,
and forth.
great. I accept that, but you're saying that
No,
what
you're
you're
not accepting
implying
it.
is that it's over. It can be no more. But there's plenty more in science where your
You'd have to prove it. You'd have to prove that the amino acids could come in all left-handed purities. I'll believe that if you could prove it.
again, it's still in research where you assume a conclusion. That's the
No.
How many tests do you want them to make?
difference between your mind, and the reality that
How many
everyone
tests
else
do you
sees.
want them to make in order to believe that they only come in right and left-handed? They don't come only in left-handed.
Again, science is still looking. It does not stop because it discovers something. You stop with the assumption that there is something, but you
Okay,
can't.
let us know when you have it. Let us know when these pure amino acids are ever discovered. I'm open to it.
Okay, great. Then you'll be coming to me and say, "Hey, you were right. Science did keep going and discover something else."
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
waiting for
You
that
can't
proof.
even see that.
Okay,
You
how
can't
did
even
it get programmed?
fathom that right now.
How did it get
No,
programmed?
you're the one that's closed-minded to a designer being needed to actually purify these chemicals. You're the one that's closed off.
Again, as soon as you give me evidence and it convinces me, I'll change my mind.
Evidence
Okay,
of
well, chemists have
programming.
run
But
tests.
you have none. That's
Yeah,
Yeah, we have chemists that
program.
admit that you can't. We have chemists that will
you
admit.
you have a claim without evidence.
It's an
No,
observation.
we have PhDs. We have PhDs in chemistry saying that amino acids come in both right and left-handed form. They don't
Okay.
come in pure form.
Okay.
Okay, so there's experts saying that. So you're going to say what?
They didn't know that 500 years ago. That's what I'm going to say. And I'm knowing 500 years from now, they'll discover a lot more things.
They're
Versus
gonna
your
discover-
assumption, your assumption of the
You-
conclusion
They're going
No,
to
does not make
discover
sense.
encyclopedias writing themselves, Ronan.
Yeah,
Since
exactly.
when?
They do write themselves. They basically get all the information together and put it into an encyclopedia.
What you need an intelligent agent.
Encyclopedia does not make things up. It gathers information.
Encyclopedia doesn't do anything
in volume.
It doesn't do anything. People put the information and compile the information.
I just said that.
Encyclopedia doesn't do anything.
Yeah, you're blind, man. No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. You're not paying attention because you want your narrative to be forwarded and ignore anyone else.
No, we said that encyclopedias don't write themselves. You need an intelligent being to write the book. Can a book write itself? No.
A lot of people can write and put.
Yeah, are they intelligent? Are those people intelligent agents?
They're intelligent people.
Right.
They write
books.
Okay, so it's intelligent design.
It's in the reality. You're trying to mix the mind and reality again.
No, we're saying intelligent people write books. Books don't write themselves.
Of course, but you said an encyclopedia
Of
writes.
course, thanks.
Same thing. Thanks for admitting that. Yeah, you don't even realize your own silly argument.
That you're wrong and trying to.
How are we wrong?
Things.
If you wrote a book, hold it. Ronin, if you wrote a book and I discovered it, I would immediately know that something more intelligent wrote that book. You had to program and write those books.
I don't know if the book is intelligent. You don't know if the book is intelligent.
I didn't say the book was intelligent. I said you.
It can't write itself.
It can't write itself.
So there's different levels of intelligence.
Okay, but you're an intelligent agent, correct?
Okay.
And what's the level of
Yes or no?
intelligence for making it so?
Right. Could a book write itself? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. So you're an intelligent being. You can write a book, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's our point. You have to have intelligence to produce information. What don't you get?
I get that men wrote the Bible and not God.
That's
We don't have to-
changing the subject.
Yeah, we don't got to get into the Bible. I'm talking about a book. If you wrote your name on a paper, we would know that intelligence was present. You wrote your name. A name can't write itself on paper, can it?
Right.
Oh, okay, that's our argument, man.
So God didn't write his name on paper. Men wrote his name on paper.
Where did man come from? You want to go back to the cosmology argument again?
Again, I accept what science can explain to me.
Well, we haven't explained the origin.
Where did the commands to make you human come from?
That's part of the evolutionary process. It's called adaptation.
It's never been
Like
observed.
any evolutionary process.
It's never been proved.
The species.
You have your own religion. You have your own religion that can't be questioned. That's the problem, Ronin.
No. I can question my religion. You
Not
can question.
science. It's
But
not
the
science.
thing is-
Evolution
the
is
thing
not
is-
science.
You cannot provide a satisfactory argument that would convince me.
Of course not, because you're closed off.
Well, no. If you just tell me you just have to believe, if you tell me
As long
I
as
just
you
have
keep
to believe,
contradicting yourself, it doesn't matter, Ronan.
telling me to
Really
believe,
doesn't.
telling me to believe is not a valid argument.
We didn't say believe.
That's what you
I
have to
Open
do.
your eyes and
Open your eyes to where information comes from.
Faith is a feeling.
which you
We
have
didn't say
faith.
faith.
You have faith in magical matter.
No,
Yeah, pretty much.
Writing
Yeah.
encyclopedias that aren't there.
no,
How can an encyclopedia write itself, Ronan?
it doesn't.
Okay, that's what we're
Okay.
saying. Great. Exactly.
Okay, agreeing with
Okay.
you. Agreeing with you. God did not write the Bible. Men wrote God into
We're not.
it.
We didn't talk about.
talking about the Bible.
Again, no, yes, you're leading
We're
towards
talking
it.
about an
No, we're not.
encyclopedia.
That's the shadow of your whole argument,
No.
that you're going to go back to God all the
No,
time.
we were talking about a cell. Of course, and you go.
talking about
And
the
you,
evidence
what do you
of
go back to?
creation.
That was pretty, by the way. The
We're
shadow.
talking about
That was
evidence.
really pretty. The
of
shadow
creation.
of your
Yeah, you're
argument.
confusing yourself, Ronan.
The shadow of your argument. That was pretty. That
Yeah,
was.
you're confused. You're really
Yeah.
confusing yourself. So you're really
Yeah.
confused.
No, that's your words, not mine. Again, you have no valid or sound explanation to convince me. You would have convinced everybody else.
Oh, there's
You-
80% of the
You
world.
admitted yourself that an encyclopedia can't write itself. You admitted it.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so a God is not real because somebody wrote a name called God. That's what you just said. I'm using your same words
Okay, so
as a
can
standard,
a genome
as a standard
program itself.
to agree with you. You're
How could
right.
DNA write itself then? How could chemicals react in such a way? That's what we're
Chemicals
comparing.
react again. Put some salt on your tongue, you'll taste it. Put sugar on your tongue,
Yeah,
you'll
DNA
taste
is
it.
not like
Chemical
salt.
reactions.
Yeah, DNA is not like
You
salt.
don't understand what DNA is, Ronan.
Yeah, you
Chemical
don't.
re-
But, Ronan,
So the pairs have to line up the right letters. That's
You
a
don't
chemical reaction,
understand.
gentlemen.
You
That's
don't
a chemical
understand.
reaction.
no.
Where the,
Ronan,
where the
Ronan.
chromosome,
Okay, what does DNA stand for?
diribonucleic acid.
And RNA.
I don't remember exactly how.
Ribo.
Ribonucleic acid.
Yeah. Yeah, and these have to be sequenced in such a way, just like a language code.
Again, it's a chemical process. If you're going to
No,
make
it is not.
If you're going to make
Okay, then take a. Then why can't? Okay, then why can't
those
chemists?
letters have to match?
Yes. So why can't chemists take a bunch of chemicals and dump them in?
That's chemical reactions.
The DNA doesn't self-assemble from a chemical mixture, though.
Again, the DNA assembles. I forgot what that mechanism is.
Because you don't know what it is.
Male and female pairs, and the pairs have to be chemically matched. There has to be a chemical
chemistry.
There has to be a chemical reaction for them to match up.
Yeah, no kidding. That's what we're saying. Of course, it has to be sequenced
No, now you're
precisely.
backtracking. Now you're backtracking. You
can,
realize what you just got wrong because I
it
explained
can
it to
be
you.
sequenced
You haven't proven anything.
You
in
got wrong
any
because I
order.
explained it to you.
The problem.
No, you haven't
Ronan,
explained DNA. You
Ronan,
haven't
the
explained how
problem-
DNA could form naturally. You haven't explained how DNA could form
And
naturally.
I told you it was chemical reactions, and you realized they were because the
Problem,
letters have to
Ronan.
match
No.
up.
Listen for a
The
second,
letters
Ronan.
have to match up,
Listen for a
gentlemen. Those are
second.
chemical reactions
Listen
that
for a
have to
second.
match up.
Listen for a second and learn something. The problem is that any sequence is not going to work. It has to be a specific sequence that works.
Yeah. Information.
Chemical reactions again.
No,
It can't
wrong.
be just any
It's
sequence.
a chemical
No.
reaction for them
No, it's
to
not.
work.
No, it's not. They've
It's
never
not
shown
a
that.
chemical reaction for them to work together.
Then go into the lab and produce DNA then. How come nobody can do it?
No, I'm talking about DNA working with other DNA to match up chromosome pairs. Okay.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's
they
a
can't get
chemical
DNA
reaction.
to form. All
That's a
right, they can't
chemical
get
reaction.
DNA to form. They can't get DNA to form to
Again,
begin with.
Chemical
Well,
reaction.
No, it's not. They can't get DNA to form to begin with. They've never produced DNA.
Again, a chemical reaction, man. Those
Yeah,
letters.
then do it. Then take
those-
all your
those-
amino acids
those
and mix
base-
them up and see if
the
they
base-
self-assemble.
The base pairs have to match up. And how do they do it? Chemical bonding, which is
Yeah,
a
through
chemical reaction.
And it doesn't work through unguided chemistry.
I thought
That's
you
our
said
point.
you knew science, and I'm the one
We
talking.
do.
Here.
You just talk over people and you don't want to learn. They've never produced DNA.
You're the one talking. You're projecting, lad.
Yeah, that would be you. That would be you. Big garbage mouth that doesn't even know how DNA works.
I just explained chemical reactions to you.
They've
You
never
realize
produced
I was
it.
right, and you're doubling back, trying to justify your narrative.
Dude, you're as ignorant as they come. You don't even know what DNA is made up of. Your
Again,
chemical reactions is not an answer.
I just explained chemical bonds.
you didn't.
Pairs.
No, you didn't. No chemist in the world has.
Oh, but put it this way: you're wrong, and I know it.
Oh, you know it. Yeah. How do you know it? You don't know. They've never produced.
I know that it's a chemical reacting with another chemical to set up base pairs, for example, in a
And
DNA.
they can't produce it. And they
In a
never produce
DNA
functional DNA. And they never produce it.
You're gonna
You're
have to
ignorant.
look that up. Huh?
No, you're going to have to look it up because Lee Cronin just debated.
Explained it to you.
No, you haven't explained where DNA came from. You're dumb,
I
dude.
just said chemical processes build DNA. And it's
And
part
they've
of the
never shown it.
It's part of the evolutionary process. I just
No, that's not evolution. That's abiogenesis, and they've never shown that.
Again, abiogenesis was proven in the Bible by God.
Wow, Jargon, you want to go back to this clown? Because he doesn't want to learn. He wants to make up his own answers.
Help me, Jungle Jargon. I'm drowning.
You are drowning because you don't want to learn anything. You don't even know what DNA is.
You know I was talking for you.
Okay.
You know I was talking for you, man. You have to double back, realizing that it is chemical
I know.
bonds, chemical reactions that put DNA together.
What do you need,
And you-
Ronan?
And you just realized that.
Ronan, what do you need, Ronan? I'm trying to make a coffee.
I was calling for Tony here. He's drowning, and he really needs your help to interrupt me and basically try to change the subject so he
No,
can.
we've never produced DNA. DNA has never formed naturally. You're ignorant.
I didn't say.
Did you lose your crowbar? You lose your crowbar, Ronin?
DNA.
Yeah, he lost his brain. You don't have a brain in there. You don't want to learn. Yeah, jargon. Explain to him. Jargon. We're talking about DNA. He thinks DNA is just simple chemical reactions.
No, it's directed chemistry, directed chemical reaction, and it's has a specific structure too, and mechanisms and everything. It's a whole system.
It's a whole language system, and it doesn't just form from simple reactions.
It does. It's simple chemical reactions.
No, it's not.
That
oh wow!
You're simple-minded. You're being simple-minded.
Again, you're all being evasive because chemical reactions are what happen when you.
No, they don't.
When a man has sex with a woman, there's a chemical reaction that happens.
Always got to talk about sex, Ronin.
We're talking about chemicals.
Again,
we don't have people yet.
It's a chemical reaction when the sperm gets into the egg and it starts. The egg
information.
That's already alive. That's already a living being. Yeah, that's already a living being. We're talking about chemicals.
Yes, but it's a chemical reaction.
It's a pre-existing.
And they've never shown it. They can't show DNA forming on its own. What don't you get?
It's a pre-existing written word, Ronin, in this. In the sperm and the egg.
They can deduce that it is a chemical reaction.
No, it's a pre-existing written word. It's pre-existing written instructions, Ronin. Pre-existing written instructions. That's what orders you to be a human.
Fine. Let's use that. Pre-written chemical instruction. Okay, the instructions say you can match this base pair only. Other chemical reactions.
It says this
chemical reaction.
This group of cells is going to be a Ronin. That's what it says. We're commanding this group of cells to be a Ronin. That's what
you have to have chemists directed. It's all directed chemistry. It's not. It's directed reactions.
That's not so. That's not so.
Then why can't they produce life in the lab? If it's all unguided reactions, why can't they take a bunch of random chemicals and amino acids and produce a? Yeah, you don't want to learn.
Again, they're still working on it.
Okay, but they're not making progress because you have a problem with separating your amino acids.
We don't know. The paper isn't out. The studies haven't been made.
They've been trying. It doesn't work. You don't want to learn. How come you wouldn't want to learn the problems? I'm just curious. If I sent you papers on all the problems that they're having, would you even read it?
Well, sure. If they sent me papers.
Yeah.
If they sent me papers from that caliber, it says something to me. They say, hey, Ronin knows something. We want to know what he thinks about this. If they sent me that caliber of paper to read, of course I would read it.
Right.
Because I understand that caliber of education and knowledge.
Yeah, and if they said they weren't making progress in the lab, what would you say? Oh, it happened on some other planet, in some other universe. You would push it to somewhere else.
No,
where they can't show it.
No, that would be you, not me.
No, I don't. No, I don't believe in panspermia.
Again, I would, if a group of scientists sent me a so-called nobody, that degree of information, caliber of knowledge, and they asked me to read it, I would read it because there may be something there that I could contribute. Doesn't mean
then I'll send you.
Doesn't mean it's the answer. Doesn't mean it's the answer, please.
Yeah. But see, you've already. Okay, I'll send you a paper on James Tour. He's a PhD chemist. I'll send you a paper. But you already have a conclusion that a creator is impossible. So.
Again, I said it as a joke. Set you up because you deny what the Bible says about abiogenesis.
Well, I've explained to you that that's not abiogenesis.
That's what confused.
Jargon, you want to explain how that's not abiogenesis for the 20th time?
Because
jargon.
God blew. Remember the word, just the word, blew life.
I was asking jargon. I'm not talking to you.
What do you want to know, Ronin? What do you want to know?
He keeps going, but we're talking about abiogenesis. But he always goes back to the Bible of how God proved abiogenesis. Can you explain to him how that's not abiogenesis?
Yeah, it's not abiogenesis because he spoke the word that
it's an intelligent being.
the programming, sequence the programming to make humans and all the animals.
Okay. Whether God blew life or just spoke a word, it's still abiogenesis if he.
No, because it's from intelligence.
Okay, God proved abiogenesis.
So it's intelligent design.
Wow.
That's
that would be.
Again, that's a relabeling of God.
No, that would be through an intelligent agent, just like a car manufacturer needs mechanics.
That's a relabeling of God. That's what got proven false in court, federal court.
No, federal court. No, we're not going back to court or the Bible. It's the same analogy I use for the car manufacturer. You need mechanics to put automobiles together. They're the intelligent agents. The nuts and bolts cannot self-assemble into a functioning automobile. You need intelligent mechanics to do it.
Yeah, you need a good mechanic. That knows how to put it together. Yes,
that's right.
And he has to know how to put it together.
You can't prove that mechanic that put life together. You can't prove it. Like I cannot prove the origins of the universe.
Sure we can, because car parts don't make themselves and proteins don't make themselves.
No, it's called abstraction. It's of the mind. It's a figment of the imagination.
Prove that proteins can make themselves.
No, they haven't done it.
We'll put it this way. Again.
No, don't go off topic. Stay on that.
Science is looking for the answer.
Proteins can't make themselves.
God is a conclusion.
Just like car parts can't.
Science is based on observation.
And there's no observation that proteins can purify themselves.
Again, that hasn't been found yet.
Okay, let us know when you find it.
I'm not the scientist looking into it.
Let us know when they program themselves.
Yeah, we know you're not the scientist looking into it. No scientist actually has the answer.
How do you know that?
Besides, I just told you that Lee Cronin is a top origin of life.
We're talking about two different things, Ronin. We're talking about the information to make the proteins and the proteins themselves. They're not the same thing. You have to have both the information and the amino acids.
So you need an engineer.
Again, you need an engineer. You've assumed the conclusion. There is no.
No, you need a genetic. No, we haven't. We're talking about chemistry. Please don't go back to the Bible. We're saying that you need a genetic engineer to purify these amino acids and produce proteins. That's what we can show.
So not only do you have a working mechanism, you have the directions to make the working mechanism.
And you need a very intelligent chemist to do it, to purify amino acids.
You said it couldn't be done. Now you need a chemist to do it.
Yeah, intelligence.
And you keep contradicting yourself.
And
no, we haven't. What jargon? You want to explain that again?
Once.
Look, I accept that you're confused.
Not once did we contradict
because you want to hold on to one idea. You want to stay in your box, and that's okay.
No, you're staying in a box because you don't want to learn chemistry. That's obvious.
I explained chemical reactions. What
No, you didn't.
Base pairs together.
Yeah, what base pairs?
You had to double back to try to justify.
He just exists to derail the conversation. That's what his existence is for.
Yeah,
derail the conversation.
Well, so you don't like being challenged.
Is that a challenge? You're not listening.
It's not a challenge. That's why we're saying
be a problem if nobody talks to you.
That's why we're telling you to bring us a real scientist for us to talk to, because you're not making any sense.
Why haven't you written the paper that gets the Nobel Prize that proves the scientist wrong?
Oh, Raymond Damanian just did.
They have too many people have.
They have so many papers on protein folding problems, but obviously you wouldn't want to read them or even learn.
Again, when those scientists send me the paper, I'll read it.
I can give me your email and send your email to Jargon, and I'll send you a PhD chemist James Torr on protein folding problems.
I mean, Jargon can give you a blue wrench right now, and you can post the link in this live stream chat.
Yeah, I can send it to you. I'm not in the chat right now. I'm in the live chat. But I can send it to you. Either way, you can
post it in the live chat.
If you're in the live chat, you can get a wrench.
Yeah, I'm not in the chat right now, but I can go back.
You said you were in the live chat.
But he can post it in the live chat.
I'm going to post you the video. I can send you the video directly if you post your email. I'll give you my email. You want my email?
No, again, you can get a Blue Ranch from Jargon, and you can post a link in the live chat.
I will
you
send
said
it to you.
You were in
I
the
will
live
send
in the
chat.
private. Post it in the
You
private
said you were
chat.
in the live chat.
Sure. Yeah, I'll
Post
post
it
it right now.
in the
But-
There
private
you
chat.
go. There you go.
Ronan, as if you're
Ronan,
going to
instead of
resolve
acting
something.
like an arrogant fool, why don't you just listen to one sentence? Are you capable of that?
I just did.
Okay, so if you want to talk about proteins, I'd be happy to send you dozens of chemists that don't agree with you. Jargon?
Yeah.
You want to send him the paper on the video on James Tor? You know about him, right?
James Tor.
There's a video of the debate with Cronin. Send him that link if you can.
All right, hold on. Let me look it up.
It's right on YouTube.
All right. See, James Tor. Hold on a second.
Yeah. James Tor, Lee Cronin, YouTube, and send him that link. It's an hour debate. You can watch it.
Yeah, James Tor Lee Cronin, right here.
That's it. Send it. Post it, please.
Okay, unbelievable.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So here we go here.
I was in that live chat when that was live, and I sent a question to James Tor, and he answered me directly. That was after the video.
Okay, I'll post it in the this chat and the other chat too.
Perfect. Okay, so there's a scientist, Ronin. You could look into him and watch that debate.
Got it.
Okay, great.
Okay, so it's pretty much resolved that mechanisms can't make themselves, and neither can the directions to make the mechanisms work.
Right, and that's what exactly, and that's what James Tor was telling Cronin. And they're having they can't get language systems, which is what DNA and RNA and proteins are. They can't get them to react naturally, and it's
Of course not. That's absurd.
Right. It's totally absurd. And we're not saying, oh, well, God did it. We're not just going to jump to that conclusion. We're saying that the naturalistic answer is not there.
Yeah,
if
try
you want
one step at a time. I mean,
go for it. Go 1,000 steps at a time. They still can't make it happen.
Yeah.
All right, Jargon. Have a good night, brother.
All right, take it easy. So there you go. That's good. I guess Ronan's watching.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to watch it together? It's an hour and 20 minutes, though.
If you want to run it here, sure. I'll watch it with you.
Unbelievable.
Well, today on the show, it's round 2 debating the origins of life. James Tor and Lee Cronin join me on the show today. Now, in November last year, I brought you an unbelievable discussion on how on earth did life begin, featuring Lee Cronin, whose Glasgow lab is working to crack the mystery of the origins of life. Now, Lee believes his research group is on the cusp of giving a purely natural explanation for how inorganic chemicals turned themselves into the first self-replicating form of life. Now, following that discussion, I was inundated with requests to bring one person on opposite Lee to make the case for why current research into origins of life is nowhere near to overcoming the complexity and odds involved in getting life going. Now, his name is James Tor, though he goes by Jim. He's professor of materials science and nanoengineering at Rice University in Houston. And Jim is regarded as one of the leading voices in the world responding to origins of life research. So today is a rather unique show, bringing together two people who are leaders in their field in this fascinating and much disputed area of science. So Jim and Lee, welcome along to the show. It's great.
Notice what he said. It's disputed, much disputed.
Yeah.
To have you both with me today. Perhaps we'll come to you first of all.
Because there's people that say there's no dispute.
Jim, as someone I've long wanted to have on the show, really pleased that in one way or another, the last discussion on this sort of facilitated you eventually making the time to come on the show. I'm really pleased about that. Tell us firstly, before we get into the subject today, a little of your scientific background and the sorts of work that you undertake in the laboratory when it comes to nanotechnology.
Oh, there you go. Nanotechnology. You know what that is, right, Ronan?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Well, I'm trained as a synthetic organic chemist, and worked for the last 30 years, moving that more away from natural products and more toward material science and nanoengineering, trying to build systems that can function and operate as machines where we use, for example, a light input and have those machines operate. More recently, we're having them drill into cells and do cancer treatment in that way. Plus, we have a large program in graphene and carbon materials. Everything from medicine to aircraft wings to just making new materials possible, things that had never been made before. So we span across several different areas.
You are a Christian in terms of your personal faith commitments. Does that make any difference to the way you do your science in the laboratory, the way you approach issues, for instance, around origin of life research?
Well, actually, I don't work in the area of origin of life. I just started reading about origin of life about four years ago, and trying to understand where people were coming from. I was studying evolution, and that brought me to origin of life. And then as I started to look at the organic chemistry that's been done in the origin of life, I came to the conclusion that we're clueless, that humankind is clueless on where life began. And as I started to study the work, I felt that so much was being said that was untrue, that was just hyped up, and not only are young students mystified and bewildered by this, but professors themselves don't know, and professors themselves are lost in these issues. They think that all of this has been figured out, that carbohydrates came from the foremost reaction and life built up from an RNA world, because they've never studied it. They were just like me. I had never studied it, and I took these things for granted. I trusted people.
That's
and
right.
I see that I shouldn't have trusted them, because when I looked at the data, it wasn't there. And I wrote one article on the topic, calling people out on it, and then that snowballed from there. I started being invited to give talks on this, and it's interesting that none of my colleagues privately would disagree with me. They'd all agree with me that they didn't know. But I don't personally work in the area of origin of life. Now, you asked whether I'm a Christian. Not only am I Christian, but I love Jesus tremendously. He is the best. He is everything to me. I am much more than just a Christian in name. I come from a Jewish background, so when I came to the Lord at the age of 18, and I came to see that Jesus was the Messiah, it was a huge change. For me, it is not just something in name. So you asked, how does it affect my research? But it affects my research in the way I interact with people. I'm held to a higher standard because of Jesus Christ. I ask God to give me insight, to give me wisdom, to give me creativity in my work. The scriptures are filled with people like Bezalel, where God specifically filled them with the Holy Spirit and gave them wisdom. For example, in Exodus chapter 31, across many different disciplines. And so in that sense, I pray and I seek the Lord. But still, that doesn't mean that I have to neglect the book work. I mean, I have to study the work, and for me, it's just asking God for wisdom is what it is.
Sure. Let's turn to you now, Lee. So welcome back. We didn't scare you off too much in the last show, I'm glad to say. And it's great to have you back on the program. Just be interested to know what sort of reaction you got from being on the show, whether you kind of heard back from any of your colleagues in the area or others to the discussion that we had last time on the origins of life.
Actually, I got some quite unexpected feedback from some of your listeners. Actually, some scientists who are Christians, and they actually, because I come across as quite a forceful character, they were pleasantly surprised by the consideration I gave their religious point of view. Not in that, I mean, I'm an atheist, but I don't think that is a excuse for me to demur on someone's ideas or beliefs, right? As I talked about, I don't believe that belief and falsifiability in science actually interact. Belief, where falsifiability ends, belief begins. And so I kind of do react against people like Richard Dawkins, who kind of assert that religious people are somehow not smart enough. Okay. Because that's just a lie and offensive. What I would like to say, though, is I think what is important is to really, as Jim was saying, is do the book work. But I do think it's not just about a point of view. I think whether you have if you have a point of view where there was a creator, obviously you believe.
Well, obviously there was a creator.
Creator of some description, and that's however God affects the universe. Well, I think there is a unity and there is a mystery in terms of how was the universe set up. I don't think there's anything magical in the physical universe at all, actually. I think it can all be described by science.
So there's no evolution.
Jim might disagree, and we can talk about that, but I think it's really important to have the frame of the discussion respectfully and also on the basis of what we can interrogate using the rules of science.
Yeah.
Because, and I think there is an interesting problem about the history of origin of life, but I'll let you bring us in.
And I was going to say, Jim, I think you're keen to stress yourself that you're at the end of the day interested in the evidence, just like Lee is, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where I think I was mischaracterized by you, Justin, in your last broadcast when you were on with Lee and with Dennis Noble. So for me, I have never brought in God into any of my arguments on origin of life. I've never done that. I've sent all the 4 papers that I've written on this topic. I sent them to Lee, and he can attest that I don't mention God in this. I use purely naturalistic explanations for what I have to say about the evidence. I am just merely critiquing the evidence of others. I never bring God into this. If you look at any of my scientific papers, I don't bring God into this. And so I'm quite able to speak like that, and that's all I wanted to address in this in this discussion.
It's about the
to
evidence.
only address it in that way. I only just mentioned God and Jesus Christ because you asked me a question.
Sure. And I mean, we'll maybe come back to this towards the end of the show as well. But obviously, the parts of the world where these issues are being contested sometimes involve the intelligent design community. And I know you have spoken on, at conferences run by the Discovery Institute and so on. So, and obviously some scientists see them as somehow having a God agenda. What's your view? For you, could it be that if the naturalistic explanations in origins of life, and we'll come to them in a moment, aren't working, that one option is, well, maybe there is a designer, some kind of cosmic designer that's at work here?
Well, let me just make a distinction, and this gets back to addressing why I even am on your show today. It's because I want to correct things that were said about me in your last program when I wasn't there. You said that 54 minutes into your talk, you said James Tour, quote, fits with the intelligent design view. You cannot get a naturalistic explanation that does justice to the origin of life. There's too much improbability, too much complexity, unquote. So that's what you were suggesting that I speak on. And that's just not true. And then Lee's response to that was, quote, I'll give you one word, nonsense, unquote.
Okay.
So you set up this straw man of who Jim Tour is, and then Lee came in and kicked the thing down.
Well,
I should just come in there and say, I mean, I think we can discuss about, because you do design what you call nano machines, but they're not machines, and we can talk about narrative and design and what that means.
What?
And I think we can do that in a very
Machines are not
way.
machines.
And I think, Justin can talk about his mischaracterization or not, but what I was saying is actually the whole idea that intelligent design has any scientific basis is, for me, the answer is not just nonsense, but demonstratable nonsense, and we can discuss the reasons for that. And I think actually from some of the things that you're discussing, I think we're going to agree a lot on that. And it's quite important, I think, from both our point of views, whether you're religious or not, to have a fair and well-grounded debate, and so we can actually make progress.
Well,
I think
you have to talk about the evidence.
I will hold my hands up wholeheartedly, Jim, if any misrepresentation took place. I was speaking off the cuff, and in a sense, that's exactly why I've got you on the show today, so that you can speak for yourself, right, and make and be clear on what you actually do believe, what you are saying about the research. Before we come to that, could you, for the sake of people who maybe can't remember or didn't catch the first time round, Lee, just very briefly, what your research essentially boils down to and is saying about how life got going on Earth?
So I'm an inorganic chemist, and I'm always been faced with the complexity of crazy kind of
Complexity.
reactions and understanding what goes on in a reaction vessel in an experiment. And what I was trying to convey in the last discussion is that although the presence of life on Earth seems like it's a miracle of complexity, what I was trying to convey is I think that we have begun to develop a pathway to understanding
yourself
how
with
not
the
only
word
how that complexity arises, but creating that
it's
process.
Not complexity, it's written instruction.
Not identically, because not about identically kind of trying to
it's
check
about
historical
directed working mechanisms which require
the laws of what law of the universe allows life to come into being, and to explain that that's just a gradual process.
Complexity is confusing people.
Also, why I think we might vigorously agree, but we'll wait until Jim and I discuss, to express some frustration in the origin of life community, where people set themselves up for an improbable discussion to say, if this molecule was present at this concentration on this day, and then this would happen, and scientists want to have mechanistic control. And I would argue it's not, people aren't being disingenuous, they're just using a narrative to explain their experiments. And this actually is happening in nanotechnology. People building nanomachines? No, they're not. They're looking at the formation of architectures from the top down and bottom up. Same in the origin of life debate. Lots of people are going top down, I think this happens, I imprint my narrative on it. Rather than going bottom up, how do we actually see what features of the universe allow complexity to develop such that evolution can get going? And I think what I can do today is carry on the discussion about how those experiments can be used productively to kind of have a new debate, because it's important for the young scientists coming into this that they don't get sucked in by a narrative, that we ask the question in a new way. And I think, again, I don't want to speak for Jim, but I think he and I might agree on there is a need for displacing a narrative with more interesting and unifying questions.
Well, just the facts.
Let me come back to you first then,
All
Jim.
you need is just the facts.
It might be helpful for you to sketch out how you have understood Lee's research and what he seems to be saying in it. And equally use this time, feel free to obviously address any other issues that came up in that first recording we did, where you feel either the research or yourself were not being represented adequately.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just address that. I think that I was not being represented adequately by you, Justin, and I just corrected that. But also by Lee. Lee's said of me, quote, number one, he's just trying to provoke people to see how they will react, unquote. And that's just not true. That's absolutely not true. I think now that I've sent him my papers and he's read them, he might say, yeah, I'm putting forth arguments. I'm not just trying to elicit a reaction from people. So
making up things.
I really want to say also, I respect Lee for coming on here. He is the first origin of life scientist willing to speak to me
the only one brave
in a
enough.
public forum. And others have spoken to me in private, but he's the first one willing to speak to me in a public forum.
Only one brave
and
enough.
I think that that's telling
enough.
in and of itself that the community is avoiding me, in the sense that they'll avoid a discussion with me on the very topics in which they are publishing. And it's not that I haven't tried to speak with them. So first of all, let me thank Lee for being willing to stand up and do this. And I'd like to just go through and go through step by step the things that I heard in the last program and address these.
Okay.
Because Lee spoke for about 45 minutes in the last program. He said a number of things, and I tried to track with him. I really did want to understand. I tried 4 times to go. I went through 4 times that program. 4 times. That's 4 hours I went through this program to try to understand where he's going. And then he kindly sent me 5 papers, which I've gone through to try to understand where he is on the origin of life and what he's trying to do. And then I'd love to be able to discuss with him the things that he's trying to address and give my critique on it.
Well, let's start just maybe with one of them. Let's say tell us what you understood to be the basic thesis of Lee, and just this will obviously have to be a sketch, but just generally where you find it problematic ultimately.
Yeah, I find it problematic in that there's an extrapolation from a very small experiment in a laboratory. There's an extrapolation to giving people an idea that we really understand more than we do. And what I appreciate about Lee is that he said he's a scientist and he likes to have discussions where he can, and he says, and I like to have discussions where I can have arguments about evidence, unquote. That's what he said. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
So Justin, you then said that you, in GCSE biology, which I had to look up because I didn't know what GCSE is. And I figured, I found out that that's sort of like equivalent to our high school.
Yeah.
You said there was some kind, quote, there was some kind of primordial soup billions of years ago on the surface of the earth, chemicals swimming around, maybe bolts of lightning going off. And somehow something happened and poof, you got your first sort of very simple cell or something swimming around in the ocean. And then you asked Lee, am I right? And Lee said, you asked Lee, you said, is this view essentially correct or fundamentally wrong, unquote. And Lee said, you're not wrong. Your GCSE chemistry is not too bad at all. And I'm like, what? Where is the evidence for this? Here is a man who just said that he likes to discuss evidence. You tell him that there's a primordial soup and somehow things sort of got going and that's how life formed. And you asked Lee, is that right? And Lee, being the authority on origin of life, says, you're not wrong. Quote, you're not wrong. Your GCS chemistry is not too bad at all, unquote. And I'm like, this is the type of extrapolation that I'm talking about from one of the premier people in the world in origin of life. And I'm saying, okay, you got evidence for me? Help me. Give me the evidence for that, Lee. Give me the evidence. I'd love to have it.
There's plenty of it. So, okay, well, let's just take a step back. So it's clear that chemicals on Earth before life were simpler because there was no machinery to make chemicals. The debate that I think you're digging into a debate that origin of life people have, that I was giving Justin a GCSE, not a degree in chemistry, and that I don't care whether the atmosphere is oxidizing or reducing. We simply don't know. We can look at the fossil record, the geological record, so on and so forth, and ask those questions. However, from meteorites that we have from the solar system, from where the birth of the solar system is, we know what type of chemicals are present. And basically, when you look at, say, Murchison or other meteorites, carbonaceous chondrites, we find very simple organic molecules with some nitrogen and oxygen, some carbon, some hydrogen, maybe a bit of sulfur, the elements that we'd expect we find on Earth, very simple versions.
No direction.
All I was saying was that.
No
now,
direction.
I think that, Jim, you've got to be careful here because you are trying to build a narrative. And building narratives and what I'm not interested in. His GCSE chemistry was fine. GCSE high school chemistry. Was there simple chemistry on Earth? Was there some energy on Earth? All those things. To the best of our knowledge, yes, there was energy. There was a lot of things going on.
Which doesn't explain anything.
A great deal of evidence for the late heavy bombardment and all that stuff.
Doesn't explain
But
programming.
if you want concrete evidence, you can get meteors that are 4.7 billion years old, which have simple chemistry on them. And I think the thing that you're maybe creating a straw man here, because I think we basically agree that in the past,
we let him do his
looks to be simpler.
He needs directed chemistry. I'm telling him he needs directed chemistry.
This is kind of interesting,
I need directed chemistry, not chemistry.
Okay,
There's a big difference between directed chemistry and chemistry.
Just pause the video when you're going to talk because it's really interesting and I want to keep up.
It's rubbish. It's rubbish. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's rubbish coming from somebody who's supposed to be an authority speaking rubbish.
These gentlemen are authoritative figures. They have degrees.
Hold in your hand, maybe that you could manufacture in your lab.
See, if he wasn't speaking rubbish, he would tell us where the programming came from, and he's not doing that, so he's speaking rubbish.
There is good evidence for that. Plenty of peer-reviewed publications which talk about
peer review is worthless. It's your peer review that's in question.
that information. Now, it doesn't.
Your peer review is nonsense. It's worthless. It's useless. You're not telling us where the programming is coming from.
Doesn't suggest it doesn't. There is not evidence for what the lifetime is of erasure and the half-life of that complexity. However, we are beginning.
Complexity doesn't tell us anything. It just confuses people thinking that there is complexity that results in programming. Complexity does not equate to programming.
Very radioactive carbon dating, heavy atom carbon dating, and looking at the entropy of material, the disorder of the material, to kind of piece together if there was something complex there. But that is a very, very hard problem. So I disagree with you that Justin's chemistry is just fine. I don't know what the precise nature of that is, and maybe what you're getting at is some origin of life.
You don't know, you can't say.
It was reducing, then it was oxidizing, then there was phosphorus, and then there was sugar, and there was RNA. No, I would agree with you, there is no evidence about what sequence of small molecules were there, but was there a super simple molecules there on Earth at the beginning? Yes. And we can trace it back to the Big Bang, where there we have proof that there was a Big Bang.
No programming.
And then we have stars forming, and those stars explode. And when those stars explode, they produce elements in their elemental form. And when they accrete on a planet.
No directed working mechanisms. Elements have to produce proteins, and the proteins have to be directed to be proteins, and they have to be directed in order to be a directed working mechanism, which is total nonsense to come from a Big Bang.
They then gain complexity.
Okay.
Complexity. He's confused. He's confused. He's labeling it complexity. He's equating complexity with programming. He's confused.
Feel free to respond there, Jim.
Okay, so Lee, that's not what you said, and that's not what you put forward. I agree. We have small molecules that might be oxidizing.
No, I did not say anything else. That's exactly what I said. Justin said, was there a prebiotic soup? And I said, yes, the evidence says so.
No, and Justin said, then cells came forth, life came forth from that. All right, so
that is indeed
you were a little bit loose on that. Let's get more.
Okay, cells and life came forth from that, and he says, oh, that's what happened, without explaining anything.
What I'm saying is, you are the authority here. When you tell him, he asked you specifically, he says there was a primordial soup and life came forth, and your very simple cells came forth from this. We have no evidence how this thing happened. Lots of small molecules. You know, a cell's pretty complex.
We don't know how it happened, but the evidence on Earth says in the fossil record that life appeared very, very quickly, okay, after the late heavy bombardment.
With specific instructions for everything to be what it's directed to be. Every different living organism that appears out of nowhere in the fossil record comes with its own set of instructions that did not come from matter.
Evidence in the fossil record that is not disputable. I think we both agree planet Earth formed, rocks, simple chemistry, no life, right? We don't know all the details of that, but then within a few 100 million years, there's
programming, voila, encyclopedias, voila.
Evidence in the fossil record that life formed, simple cellular life. Those two facts are not, as far as I...
Simple cellular life. You need programming. You need the directed working mechanisms for replication, for everything. And not only do you need the programming, you need additional programming for it to be something else, and for it to be something else, and something else, and something else, and something else. You need written programming for all those changes, specific programming that doesn't come from thin air.
Disputed by
those are not contestable. How we got from the point A to point B?
Absolutely, but I did not say
okay.
We knew.
Right. So we're agreeing.
Okay.
You and I agree, Lee, that how we got from the simple molecules to life, it happened, but we don't know how. Okay.
Exactly.
So now I'm trying to understand what you were teaching us here. You said there's nothing magical about the emergence of life. It's really simple. That's what you said. And so I looked up, because I'm not a biologist. So I looked up what are the characteristics of life. So I just Googled it. What are the characteristics of life? It's responsive to the environment, growth and change, ability to reproduce, have a metabolism and breathe, maintain homeostasis, which I can give you a
That's a
definition
lot
for
of
that
stuff.
if you need it. Being made of cells and passing traits on to offspring. Now, we may or may not agree on that definition. That is a textbook definition of the characteristics of life. And you said that if you have information, you have life. Universes, you said, quote, universes without life are universes without information. So
Indeed.
I just want to understand you. I'm asking you a question. Information itself is not life. Would you agree with that? Life has information, but information itself is not life. I can have a piece of paper and write on that piece of paper. That piece of paper bears information, but that piece of paper does not have life.
No. So that's, I think, so that information on the paper is as much alive as you are, actually. But let me frame that properly, because I think, again, we're going to end about, I think most of our argument today may be semantic. If you did not exist, you would not be able to write on that piece of paper. So if someone brings to me a piece of paper with words on it, that just tells me that's evidence of life somewhere. The problem we have with life and the origin of life and definitions, we don't actually know what life is. And that's a problem. So
we can look at every single life and we can see the written instruction that have specific commands and sequences and progression for it to build an organism specifically according to the written directions that it cannot get from in thin air.
And so that's why I made that very well thought out statement that universes without life that can't have information, because there's no syntactic information. There's no encoder and no decoder. Universes without life, of course, have the laws of physics in them and the laws of chemistry. But I'm really interested in that transition to a agency or a decision-making entity, like how many chemicals do you need in a pot? And we've begun to see in my laboratory how that can be steered. And I think that's counter all the debate, counter what you're saying is possible, counter what the origin life says is possible, but we're just doing experiments to ask those questions. But so I would say the piece of paper you write on isn't alive, it's not metabolizing, not in your definition, but you put that there. Therefore, if I found that piece of paper on another planet and I was able to discount that from background entropy, I would know that a living thing had put it there. And that's all I can do right now. I know so little about what life is that I'm able to understand. I think I kind of view myself a bit like before Isaac Newton wrote down how gravity worked.
Isaac Newton believed in
exists,
God.
I can see it, but I don't yet have the equation for it.
Isaac Newton wrote his Principia de Mathematica in order to prove there's God. He used science, or he basically invented science in order to prove that there's a God.
And isn't it interesting that, it took Newton and then Einstein to quantify the law of gravity, and then obviously people could then apply that everywhere in the universe. But we knew it existed. And I'm kind of excited because we're in this like pre-quantum mechanics world for biology.
Because Newton spoke more about God than he ever did about quote unquote science. Because science is what you can know anyways, and you can know that you have a creator.
Understanding the equations, the physical laws that give rise to biology. But confident I am that we'll find them. And I can give you many reasons for that. But confidence is nothing without evidence. And what we have to discuss today is the evidence trail that is leading me down this track. Obviously, it's not finished yet. I haven't made life in my lab yet. I will. The argument will be that life that I made in the lab, did it just come from me? And where did I come from? And so what we have to work really hard to do is not obsess about the origin of life, but how can we create complex chemistry from simple chemistry? And what are the laws that turn that complex chemistry? And one comment I'll say is, like in nanomachines, we're never ever going to make nanomachines deterministically. We have to evolve them. The cell is a good example of that. And even today, with all this work in nanotechnology, Jim, that you work in, there is not one functioning nanomachine in our technology made from the chemist up. It's all from the electrical engineer down.
Yes.
Well, look, I'm just going to go to a quick break, and we'll return with Jim responding. Fascinating discussion. So glad I'm able to bring both Lee and Jim together for today's conversation on the origins of life. It's a part two, really, to the
I wouldn't take you to a movie. You know
New
that?
challenge.
I would
It's not a
take
neural.
you to a movie.
We're talking about to stretch your
What are we getting into Lane Craig for?
as if you're proposing a new religion.
Commercial, isn't it?
Come on, let's get back to the discussion.
Welcome back to today's show. Really excited to be bringing Lee Cronin and Jim Tor together for another debate on the origins of life. This was following a session we did on this with Lee as one of the guests last year on Unbelievable. And I had so many requests to bring on Jim Tor opposite Lee. Jim is Professor of Materials Science and Nanoengineering at Rice University in Houston, and one of the leading critical voices, really, in terms of current origins of life research and whether it really is leading towards a naturalistic explanation for how life arose on Earth. And we heard in that last section, Lee trying to give an explanation of why he, yes.
Also, up front, the reason
Yeah. What are your responses here to all of this, Jim?
Right. So Lee said that we may come down to a matter of semantics in our discussion. I don't disagree with that. Let me just say also up front, the reason I have never supported intelligent design, although I'm sympathetic to the arguments, is the first line on my website under the evolution creation page. I don't support intelligent design because I have no tool to measure it. I have not a tool to measure that something has been intelligently designed. So I hold my colleagues to the same tools and standards that I'm going to have to hold myself. That's why I don't support it, because I have not a tool to measure it. I'm not against it. I just have not a tool to measure it. Secondly, I've never said that this cannot happen by a naturalistic explanation. In fact, I've gone on to say is I have no idea what we're going to discover in 50 years, 100 years, 300 years from now. If 150 years ago you asked somebody where is information stored in a cell, they would have said, I have no idea. It must be God.
But
no,
it is stored there.
Is stored in the cell.
See, that's the thing. You should have known that the information is stored there, and the information that we've discovered is not all the information that's needed. It's not all the information that's there. There's many other forms of information in there, just like there's mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA. There's many other forms of messaging and programming or instruction, even from the zygote itself.
So we learn things with time, and that's what I'm saying. As of now, there's many things that we just don't understand. So to project as if we understand them, and to project as if we understand them, whether we're speaking about high school students or professors, is wrong. We just have to say, this is an open discussion. We can't address this. Now, as far as information that Lee was talking about, that life has information, and yes, if you find a piece of paper written on it, you know that life was there. I agree. But life has information, life has matter. We have to deal with both of these. We have to deal with information and we have to deal with matter.
Right. If you listen to my videos going years back, 7 years back, it's directed working instructions. So not only do you have the instruction, you have the directed working mechanism. It's very important to understand that.
Matter is a huge, huge problem. 99% of what I talk about in my papers is the matter. I might have a paragraph on information. Lee says my biggest problem is I don't understand information. That's what he said in the last thing. And I will confess, I am not I am not an aficionado of informatics. That I am not. You had Perry Marshall on there. He is. I don't deal with information. Most of my argument has to do with the matter. In order to have life, you have to have the matter around life. It is not merely information. And so Lee has said biology, all that biology is chemistry with history. And I look at this and I'm thinking, well, biology is really complex. Biology has chemistry with history, but it is not chemistry with history. It is enormously more than just chemistry with history. It's extremely complex. And what I feel that Lee is doing is that he is putting out a definition of life that would allow him to try to get at, say, this Evolution 2.0 prize. But it's not a definition of life that any biologist would look at this and say that this is indeed life. Now, again, maybe I'm wrong, and Lee can correct me on this. But biology is the science of life and living organisms. An organism is a living entity consisting of one cell, for example, bacteria, or several cells, for example, animals, plant, fungi. That's what biology is. And that definition that I just said is something that, again, that I Googled. I said, what is the definition here? This is, you've got to have a cell in order to have life. You just want to say that I have a recursive information system. That itself is not life.
And just before Lee comes in, from what I understood, and again, Lee can correct this, but what Lee has achieved in his lab in terms of what he's witnessed in terms of these replicating, I think it's salt molybdenum crystals or whatever. For you, what he sees as the beginnings of an explanation of how life arose and how a complex system could ultimately emerge. You believe simply are nowhere near, presumably, what actually constitutes life, and therefore Lee shouldn't be talking about it in terms of being some sort of approach to the origin of life.
Well, I know Lee is bursting to comment, but you just asked me a question, so let me answer that question. I wanted so much to understand from Lee what he was talking about. I listened very carefully on the last broadcast, and he talked about salad dressing and life. He said life formed in bubbles, and these bubbles are like salad dressing. They get stuck, something gets stuck, and then all of a sudden he starts to talk about flipping coins. I was trying to track with him. And then when he said there's a paper on this, and he was kind enough to send me this paper, I, with great enthusiasm, went to that paper with great enthusiasm because I wanted to see. And, I feel like I was told.
Why you're interrupting?
You're interrupting.
Tony wants a link to the.
You're interrupting.
Tony wants a link to the chat room, man.
Other clusters
you keep interrupting, so he wants.
You're interrupting. You're interrupting.
Are you gonna? Well, no, I wouldn't take you to a movie, but Tony wants a link to the room, man.
Something gets stuck, and then all of a sudden he starts to talk about flipping.
Hold on. Yeah, it's a bunch of gibberish, is what it is.
No, it's not. It's quite interesting, but
there's a bunch of gibberish. Where are we? I don't see anybody here. Where's?
Well, he wanted you to post the link to the room.
Hold on. Wait. Hold on.
I'm not rushing you. I'm just having fun at your expense.
And you think I'm sorely affected?
No, you're interrupting. I'm trying to listen to what the gentlemen are talking about and saying, and you keep interrupting. Pause the video, make your comment, and then hit play again. I'm good.
Who wants to get
in? Tony, that guy was here. He goes by what? Anthony
Maurice.
Maurice.
And Tony.
I like that word, Maurice.
I
like it. Unfortunately.
And sorry about the delay. Oh, there we go.
Jargon?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is that James Tor video still going?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to watch it? You want to watch it?
Yeah, I've watched it before. I don't know if we're going to discuss it now.
Yeah, well, it's a long video. We're just going through. They're in the thick of it right now.
No, Tony wants to discuss it, man. He's just being polite. He wants to discuss what he knows, so he can, rehash.
All right, we can stop. We can stop and discuss it.
Oh, you can pause it and just listen to him ramble on.
Why should we listen to you? You want to be the authority?
I was yielding the floor to you. I'm yielding the floor to you.
Thanks, Ronin.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Ready, Jargon?
Yeah.
My position is the same as James Tor. So instead of attacking me, why don't you attack him? That's all.
Yeah. So what's the problem
when he talked about information, that life is not just information, it's a sequencing. You have a sequencing problem. You have a problem with the origin of life. And then they're reading the comments, you saying that I failed, you attacking me. Why don't you attack James Tor and call him, a fool?
Okay. Apparently you got your eyes crossed because that was Illuminati was telling you that.
Oh, okay. Illuminati was saying that.
Myself, I agree with the concept that it was chemical reaction. If you're saying something is sequence,
wait, hold on.
He didn't say that.
Chemical reactions.
Okay, Ronin, go ahead.
If you're saying
chemical reactions,
if they're saying something is sequence, that means something artificial established that foundation,
something intended.
Where the counter argument would be
something intended
that chemical reactions developed simple organisms and then over time became complex organisms.
And James Tour addressed that. He said that
something sequence is like us using math. We're just using numbers to describe something.
No, that's not what James Tour said, though. You're misinterpreting what he was saying to Lee Cronin.
No. I'm explaining what both sides are doing. And I'm saying
Cronin is.
I'm agreeing with the side that says it's chemical processes that developed over time.
No, clearly you didn't listen, because James Torge says it's not just time and chemical reactions.
Let's listen to a little bit more. Hold on.
Okay.
I was trying to track with him. And then when he said there's a paper on this, and he was kind enough to send me this paper, I, with great enthusiasm, went to that paper with great enthusiasm because I wanted to see. And, you know, I feel like I was told this is going to be the greatest show on earth. And I went in there and there was an old poodle standing on his hind legs. I mean, there was nothing. This is just an autocatalytic reaction. You're forming some clusters.
Pause right there. Pause. Can you pause?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So basically what he's saying is these papers are greatly exaggerated. It's not just simple chemical reactions. And these chemists make these big claims and publish these papers as if they're leading to stuff, and they're not.
Yeah.
That's what James Tour is saying, that these simple chemical reactions, they don't lead to anything. And by the way, they're guided. They're not unguided.
No. Again, the chemical reactions find their connection. And
no, they don't.
Simple.
He just said the paper didn't lead to anything. Jargon, can you play it again?
Jargon.
Okay, we'll go back. Jargon.
Excuse me, they develop from simple to more complex organisms.
You've got to have
what he sees as the beginnings of an explanation of how life arose and how a complex system could ultimately emerge. You believe simply are nowhere near, presumably, what actually constitutes life, and therefore Lee shouldn't be talking about it in terms of being some sort of approach to the origin of life.
Well, I know Lee is bursting to comment, but you just asked me a question, so let me answer that question. I wanted so much to understand from Lee what he was talking about. I listened very carefully on the last broadcast, and he talked about salad dressing and life. He said life formed in bubbles, and these bubbles are like salad dressing. They get stuck, something gets stuck, and then all of a sudden he starts to talk about flipping coins. I was trying to track with him. And then when he said there's a paper on this, and he was kind enough to send me this paper, I, with great enthusiasm, went to that paper with great enthusiasm because I wanted to see. And, you know, I feel like I was told this is going to be the greatest show on earth. And I went in there and there was an old poodle standing on his hind legs. I mean, there was nothing. This is just an autocatalytic reaction. You're forming some clusters, and other clusters can use those as templates to form around them. Autocatalytic reactions have been around a long time in chemistry, for over 100 years. Oswald came up with these over 100 years ago. I don't see how that is giving you information of life. The day his student walks in that laboratory, by walking into that laboratory, he's influenced that experiment. By choosing a chemical off the shelf, he's influenced that experiment. And then all he set up was an autocatalytic reaction. I think that there's nothing there.
All right, pause right there.
Nothing. Absolutely. It's gibberish. It's all gibberish.
Pause. Yeah, right. And there's nothing there. And he's saying that these reactions are guided. You need a chemist to take a chemical off a shelf in pure form. And there's still nothing there. There's nothing. James Tour so attack James Tour. Is he a moron? Is he lying?
It's nothing, Ronin.
No, he's looking.
There's nothing. You know what nothing is, right, Ronin?
There's nothing there. And there you heard from a PhD chemist. There's nothing.
Again, if he does not want to look at it from a different perspective, it's his right to do so. And if he had a valid argument, then he would silence it.
He just did and said there was nothing. He just said that catalytic reactions He said catalytic reactions would not happen without the intelligent agent selecting the chemical off the shelf, and it still turns into nothing. Play that part again, Jungle.
And it's still nothing.
Well, play it again.
And I went in there, and there was an old poodle standing on his hind legs. I mean, there was nothing. This is just an autocatalytic reaction. You're forming some clusters, and other clusters can use those as templates to form around them. Autocatalytic reactions have been around a long time in chemistry, for over 100 years. Oswald came up with these over 100 years ago. I don't see how that is giving you information of life. The day his student walks in that laboratory, by walking into that laboratory, he's influenced that experiment. By choosing a chemical off the shelf, he's influenced that experiment. And then all he set up was an autocatalytic reaction. I think that there's nothing there. There's
nothing there.
There's nothing.
He said he thought, he thinks. He doesn't know.
Well,
he doesn't give an explanation.
Prove otherwise.
He would have explained it, gentlemen. He didn't. Where's the explanation? I don't think. Well, why? Why? How?
That any biologist looking toward what is defined as life, not by Lee's definition, but by anyone else's definition, where you have to have, example, one cell, like a bacterium, anything like that, anything close. It's not even close to that. And so I think it's been totally
not even close, Ronin.
Lee, strong criticisms there then. This is your chance to obviously defend yourself.
Totally unsubstantiated. It's like, look, I really respect Jim. He's making a narrative as he did in the document sending. I didn't really expect him to kind of be.
Okay, what we're looking for is a mechanism, a way to get written instruction that's not there. Okay, let's see if he provides it.
So I would say, I don't know. Anyway, look, let me address the.
Oh, what are you saying? I don't know.
First point. The right stuff is not enough, right? If I take a cell and grind it into atoms, I get chemicals out. So, of course, information in the cell is how you get biology. The thing that I am perhaps a bit more humble than Jim thinks he knows what biology is. Well, I don't. That's why I'm doing experiments. So biology isn't necessarily defined by a cell. Biology isn't necessarily defined by that. All I know is that if I take a cell and I grind it up, I get atoms out. So reductionistically, I put in my atom grinder. Now, Jim is choosing to not understand my argument because I now know he's making a narrative. That people make narratives from an ideological point of view. I'm not going to go there.
Come on, Ron. What we're looking for is a mechanism to write instruction that's not there. Let's see if he provides it.
The ideology. I'm just going to give you the evidence, the experiments, and then the listeners and the viewers can judge. What I showed to Jim was, he's right, that autocatalysis has been around for hundreds of years. So what Jim is talking about is the way that basically things can self-promote, but they have no information in them. And he talked about a thing called Ostwald ripening, which the listeners that are listening might want to look that up. And Ostwald ripening is a macroscopic technique where there's no information. The paper I showed Jim, and actually is on the archive, shows that molecular information, that is a template like that DNA does with itself, can basically template at a molecular level one structure that's impossible to form without that template. So it's almost like you're able to put a template into an archway, like a Roman archway, and put in a key, and then on that template you can build another one, and there's a hierarchy of templates. And what we've shown is you can make what's called an autocatalytic set. And the word set is really important. There is no example outside of biology of a catalyst that makes a catalyst that makes a catalyst that makes a catalyst, and they work together. Maybe Jim is jealous because he wants to do it his nano stuff, but no one's managed to engineer it. We managed to discover one by scratch by searching. And yes, I would agree with Jim. We went and got pure molybdate off the shelf. The human being did that deterministically. And we
did you hear that?
Count.
Yeah.
So you have to have an intelligent agent choose a purified chemical, and Cronin admits that.
Yep.
Honestly, for the information that we put into the material, into the experiment, and that's a
right. He's making the structure himself. He just admitted it.
Yeah, I mean, he admits he's putting in exactly what he wants in pure form.
Yeah, he's making a template, and then the molecules are forming the
Yeah, he's engineering exactly what he wants. Those reactions are directed.
Valid comment. It's not a criticism. It's an assumption that you have to make. Now, I think that Jim is saying it's impossible to know what gives rise to biology because it's complicated. And I'm just saying.
No, there he goes with complicated again.
Well, I would say
complicated.
Right. And he just what was the timestamp on that when he admitted to using purified manipulate? 38 minutes.
30, 38, yeah, 37.
Okay, I'm going to use that in my debate where I have, because somebody was asking me that where that's good because Cronin admits that that's purified chemicals.
The listeners that are listening might want to look that up, and also write things like
38,
macroscopic technique. There's no
17.
information.
Yeah, 38
The paper
something.
I showed Jim,
Yeah.
and actually is on the archive, shows that molecular information that is a template like the DNA does with itself.
38, 30.
And basically
or
template
less.
at the molecular level one structure that's impossible to form without that template. So it's almost like you're able
It's
to
a
put
template.
a template into an archway.
Template.
Like a
He said
Roman
it 10
archway.
times.
So
template.
you want to pause it there
And on
and
that
talk?
template,
Yeah, he said a template about 5 times. He said template.
Yeah.
Template.
Well, templates are engineered. Those are directed reactions.
Yeah, and he still can't get anything from it.
And he still can't produce life. So he has templates, which are directed chemistry, and he still can't make life.
That's it.
Yeah.
the one, and there's a hierarchy of templates. And what
Scratch
we
his
show
head.
is you can make what's called an autocatalytic set. And the word set is really important. There is no example outside of biology of a catalyst that makes a catalyst that makes a catalyst that makes a catalyst, and they work together. Maybe Jim is jealous because he wants to do it in his nano stuff, but no one's managed to engineer it. We managed to discover one by scratch, by searching. And yes, I would agree with Jim. We went and got pure molybdate off the shelf. The human being did that deterministically.
Pause that.
And we
Pause
have
that,
to
John. Yeah. So he's using purified chemicals right there. You have a problem. A big
39.
problem.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah. And his templates are directed chemistry. He knows that.
Exactly.
All right.
It's manipulating.
honestly, for the information that we put in.
Yeah,
into the
definite
material,
manipulation.
into the experiment, and that's a valid comment. It's not a criticism, it's an assumption that you have to make. Now, I think that Jim is saying it's impossible to know what gives rise to biology because it's complicated. And
No, not because it's complicated, because it's directed.
It's directed chemistry. Yeah, it's directed chemistry.
Now I've been waiting for him to see how you can get written instruction that's not there, and he's not providing it. And I know he's never going to provide it.
No.
saying that's a fairly poor argument, and we should say let's agree on our assumptions. We both assume that chemistry at the origin of life was simpler than it was today. That's an assumption that we tested. I'm happy to write down all my assumptions.
Except that bacteria has more instruction in it than what we have in the human genome.
Yeah.
And test them at every stage. That's what a good scientist does. First assumption, no life. Second assumption, simple chemistry. Third assumption, a little bit of time. Fourth assumption, bit of energy. And then fifth assumption, some kind of selection in the environment, some kind of persistence. What is that? And
he thinks that unrelated mistakes.
The second assumption was simple chemistry. Back it up.
Unrelated mistakes are going to be selected for, and they're going to write instruction that's not there.
It's not simple. It's not simple chemistry.
He said it. He's basically building a timeline there. It's a linear process.
He's got to engineer it through purified chemicals. You're ignoring that.
Well, you gotta show how unrelated mistakes are going to write instruction that's not there. The only mechanism for evolution is by way of mistake copying errors.
Observation or diagnosis.
The only possible mechanism for evolution is from copying errors.
Combination.
Copying errors being selected for
simultaneous
and being complementary to the rest of the genome.
Lee Cronin admits that he can't produce life. So.
Oh yes, I can. You get me with a beautiful woman, and I'll get her pregnant.
And I was aware that not everyone is a professor of nanoscience. So I put it in terms that I think a listener could get some kind of analogy, metaphor out of. And Jim is kind of lambasting me for not having the correct term. He's already admitted he's not going to understand the mathematics, so I write it down. So the point is,
you want to talk about
we are talking about only one point of biology on Earth. We don't know what biology is. So it's ridiculous to kind of say, I'm going to.
We know biology is directed working mechanism. You cannot duplicate or replicate or make any directed working mechanism.
Biology does not direct things, gentlemen.
Ronin, you could be a comedian, man, because you don't even know what chemistry is. And Cronin admitted that he uses purified chemicals, and he still can't produce life.
Again, it's for an isolated
I'm actually, if anything,
diagnosis
an
or
inorganic
observation.
biologist or maybe an astrobiologist. I have made, to counter Jim's argument, a detection system that's going to allow us to distinguish alien life from non-alien life on other worlds, and also use that in the laboratory. And I'll give Jim a working assay.
Notice how he's avoiding what's
the origin of
life. Yeah.
Right. He's going into panspermia. But Ronin, if he has to engineer templates with purified chemicals, that's not unguided chemistry. You're not understanding that.
The template had to be engineered also. That's part of evolutionary process.
No, you don't have evolution. We're talking about abiogenesis.
That's what made simple organisms complex.
So you're appealing to infinite possibilities.
The simple organism with the foundation for the more
Ronan, listen to this.
The simple organism would have been the template.
Listen to this, Ronan. So you're appealing to infinite possibilities in limited time and space, right? Right? You're appealing to infinite possibilities in limited time and space, right?
Right.
Okay. That's the same thing as appealing to God, because infinite possibilities is the realm of God. Thank you.
No, you're assuming God is one and the same
try and attack
at all times.
If I have a system, a magic black box, and let's say in that black box, there could be a living cell, or there could be some random chemistry. I'm not allowed to know what. The only way I can tell when I get stuff out of that box is by looking at the complexity of the molecule.
There he goes with complexity again. He's confusing everything, but with the word complexity, because it's a nebulous term. It's the same thing as saying because of a smoke screen, then you have life. It's the same thing.
Because he said he had something in the box. It's chemicals or life, and he pulls it out, and he has to determine whether it's one or the other.
Ronan, he's never produced life, though.
Again, he's explaining something.
And I've told you that he's never come close to producing life.
He's used the word complexity.
At this point, I could agree with you.
Okay.
But complexity doesn't quit after this video.
Complexity is such a nebulous term.
Well, then you're assuming the conclusion without any skepticism.
No, you assume the conclusion of magical matter and writing instruction that's not there.
Right.
No,
I'm not the one that's closed-minded to a creator.
And some good arguments. I've sent Jim that other paper, but maybe he's going to tell me that's all nonsense as well. That explains when you use a pair of scissors, if you cut up the molecules, whether that has been generated in a genetic system or an informational system, because genetics is a strong word, or not. So we have developed a test for finding chemistry that's becoming more complex.
There you go again. Chemistry complex. That's like the same.
Chemistry with the simple part
screen. That's like
chemistry
because of smoke screen.
Chemistry.
You have the formation of life because of smoke screen. Then you have directed working mechanisms. That's rubbish. It's nonsense. It's
chemistry became complex. That means chemistry.
It's gibberish.
Baseline.
It's gibberish.
He's never shown that though. He's never shown.
Is the baseline, and then complexity happens thereafter.
Good experiment or assumptions, and we're going to go back and say, is that valid? Is that valid? What we're not doing, which I hope Jim will give us some credit for, is saying it's RNA, it's sugars, it's this, it's this, it's this. We're saying no. We have no idea what the pathway to life was, but we know that living systems create complex artifacts.
Yeah, that's no explanation at all.
Protein.
Yeah, complex artifacts.
So basically, well, it's just an assertion that he thinks a bunch of chemicals are going to eventually form life, but he's not providing any evidence or chemical pathways to how it could even get there.
Right, and complex artifact is not a directed working mechanism.
No, and again, he's using purified chemicals in his designed experiments. He's using chemicals that are in a pure form that wouldn't be found on the early Earth. So that's directed chemistry.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's one simple reaction or 20. It doesn't matter. He's using chemicals that aren't found naturally in nature.
And he's still coming up with nothing.
And he still's got nothing.
Or the works of Shakespeare. So let's use those as a encoding for a experiment. And that's the falsifiable thing that we're doing, because the origin of life isn't even a falsifiable question. I can't even go back. No. I don't know what happened. I never will.
Pause it there.
I actually don't care what happened at the origin of.
Isn't that amazing? So he can't even falsify it. So really, he has no clue either way.
He admitted it's not science.
Wow.
He admitted it's not science.
He admitted pretty much that he can't prove it or disprove it. So how does he even know it can happen?
Well, in order to be science, it has to be falsifiable. He just admitted it's not science.
Okay. There you go. Right. I don't even have to listen to anymore because he kind of just wrecked his whole argument there.
Yeah.
You can handle the rest, Jargon.
Came out of his own mouth.
All right, brother.
What I care about is if I can create a life form in the lab now with minimal interaction with it, or even better, can I see a life form naturally emerging on another planet as an observer? That would be a dream.
Okay. That would, wouldn't it?
A life form requires vast amounts of programming. Vast amounts of programming. Plus, it also has to have all the mechanism, all the hardware already in place. So not only do you have to have the hardware in place that requires the instruction, you have to have the instruction that requires the hardware to be in place.
Plenty to respond to there. I'll let you go for it, Jim.
Okay, so I think this is where it's going. I think Lee is becoming a lot more practical right now. So he says that the reason he was saying things the way he was in the last broadcast because he was lowering it to the explanation of the common person.
Not lowering, making it accessible, and not
making it accessible.
Come across, arrogantly.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't want to come across arrogantly. Sure, yeah. Well, come across scientifically and informatively. How about that?
So Lee, I did look at your other papers, and I have no problem with those. I think it's great if you can come up with a testing system to see what is life. And I can see why NASA would support such a system because they're looking for life. And so what are the signs of life? I have no problem with those papers at all. In fact, I know that there's others that are trying to come up with a system to be able to test for intelligence, that there was intelligent design in a system. And I have no problem with that. Let them try to develop a model to look for intelligence. Again, I don't go there. I never use intelligent design as an argument in what I'm doing. I'm just critiquing the science. And the problem is, Lee, that a lot of the times that people hear these things, they hear people from the origin of life community say things, and they believe it. And in the origin of life community may be saying, well, I was just trying to make that accessible to you because when I asked them for details on it, the details seem to go away. I think he's got you on.
I can pull you out on that.
I'll give you the details. The details is complexity, smokescreen, nebulous terms that prove nothing. It's all gibberish, nonsense.
Technology community say that they've made nano machines, and we say we've made these robots that are going to fix you, and you've done this as well, and I've read some of your papers, and I would argue it's not. The origin of life community aren't seeking to be duplicitous. They're simply trying to get people excited about the possibilities, and what I'm trying to do is to take a middle road to say, look, you're in your nano work trying to get people excited about the possibilities for nanotechnology. That's brilliant. Let's make the extrapolation. Maybe we can give that accommodation to the origin of life. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but is that a fair criticism that we all, in nanotechnology as well, you're making claims that may seem something in the public, but obviously need more working out in the laboratory?
Well, possibly. I mean, there's a company now started around the nanomachines to drill into these cells to affect the cells, to deliver. We've demonstrated that through these nanomachines we can deliver antibiotics that were formerly outdated. They couldn't get through the bacterial membrane, and now they get in and they kill those bacteria beautifully. So we are showing that they are indeed working, and we've been working on this for all of just a couple of years with these cells, and already we're getting this to work. The problem with Origin of Life community is this is a hard target. So Lee has said all life is, quote, all life is pretty boring if you think about it. Life is a complex chemical system that can persist over time, unquote.
There you go with complex. What does complex mean? Complex doesn't mean anything.
It means
it doesn't mean anything.
No.
Complex means a snowflake. A snowflake is complex.
No. Complex is basically
complex. A crystal is complex. Does it have information? No.
Complex is
a snowflake is complex. Does it have information? No.
Complex is compounded simplicity.
No, that's complex is meaningless.
Look, it's like having a
complex is meaningless. It means nothing. It's gibberish.
No, it's like having
gibberish.
No,
it's a smoke screen.
No, it's
complex is a smoke screen in front of you. That's complex.
No, it's like having
it's a bunch of smoke in front of you. That's complex.
No,
it's nonsense.
No.
So Lee, I'm trying to just follow what you say. So in one sentence you say it's pretty boring, and in the same sentence you say it's a complex chemical system. And I agree with you. It is a complex chemical system.
It's a directed chemical system.
He agreed.
It's a directed chemical system. It's complex. It's complex.
He agreed.
And it's directed. It's not just complex. It's directed.
He didn't say that.
Directed.
He didn't say that.
It's a directed working mechanism. I'm saying it. It's a directed working mechanism. And he said it before. You have to have the instruction, and you have to have the working mechanism, the hardware to go with it.
No instruction. It's a chemical process.
Well, let him finish talking.
Lots of complex molecules. The Origin of Life.
See, lots of complex directed working molecules.
Community is trying to make a complex molecule and another set of complex molecules. Most of the time, they make them racemic anyway. They never deal with they rarely deal with the purification problem, and they won't take what they've made and bring it on to the next step. It's all relay synthesis over and over again. It's very complex. It's hard to do, but Lee, as I
say, it's not complex. It's very complex, and it's directed. It's directed working, and it's working, so it's a directed working mechanism.
Understand your work. You're not trying to do what many other people are doing. You're not trying to make yet another way to make amino acids, another way to make a nucleotide, another way to try to hook You're not doing that. You're trying to bring us back to the fundamentals of what is life, and can you begin to make something that's lifelike in your lab. And so I appreciate that. I didn't know anything about that, or that's why I've never critiqued your work in any of my writings, because it's new to me, and so that I understand better what you're doing now. So I'm not holding you to account for what these other people have written.
I mean, just before Lee comes back in, just because you obviously have responded to other people in the Origin of Life community, Jim, has your criticism been, you might want to sketch out some examples of people who you think are basically painting a sort of just so picture of how inorganic chemistry went to, a sort of RNA or whatever, and you just think that they're massively
RNA has to be directed,
simplifying or brushing over the complexity that's involved in that process. I think you had a particular critique of an article that went in Nature. I'm afraid I forget the name of the person who wrote the article and so on. But you as you say, Lee is doing something a bit different to those guys. But you've obviously had quite strong words for others in the community who are trying to make out that there is this naturalistic explanation that we're kind of pretty close to understanding.
Right. If there's a natural explanation, you could identify the mechanism for writing billions of bits of written programming that's not there.
It's a
So
chemical
when they take their little experiment in the lab and they extrapolate it and they bring it to life, it makes the layperson feel that we understand what's going on. That's not the case at all, and it's not just the layperson. Even my faculty colleagues have been confused by these things, and the extrapolations are way overboard. And I think Lee would agree with me a lot on this, as I've read his work. Lee's work is very different. I think, now getting back to Lee's work, I think it's oversimplified. I think that he's nowhere near life, but what he's trying to do, and I see this. He said this on the last broadcast. He said what we can't agree on what life is. He says there's no agreement among different people. He says, quote, what I've come up with is forgetting what life is, but looking at what life does, unquote. Quote again, what does life do that is different than, say, a non-living plant? Life makes things, unquote. Again, he says, quote, living systems tend to make stuff. And that is what we call life, and we are looking for it, unquote. And so I see what he's trying to, what Lee is doing. He is trying to step back, because I just read to you a Googled definition of what biology is. Biology says you've got to have a cell there. And Lee is stepping back from his mathematical background. He's stepping back. What I see is to something much more basic. Okay, does life have to be a cell? Or can life come from something simpler, and then we move on toward this? And so what I feel that he's done, though, in doing this is he projects that what he's doing is he's making life. And now he's telling us, he's saying, yes, it's not life as we would understand it as a cell. It's doing things that life might do. Life tends to make things. Lots of chemistry makes things.
I think that's a very good point. I can be very constructive on, if I may, Justin.
Please do.
I don't know what life. I don't even know if life really exists. Right? But that's a really metaphysical discussion we can have another day. What I think is really important is to say
directed working mechanisms do exist, and they're observed, all different kinds of them, different directed working mechanisms, all ordered to be different living organisms for different niches and environments.
All based on chemical reactions.
Directed working chemical
reactions.
In reality,
chemical
reaction. Not just chemistry, not just complexity, directed working chemicals, reactions.
It's not directed.
All kinds of different cycles, chemical mechanisms, chemical proteins that are made and are unmade. They're all
organic.
Everything has its own place in life for it all to work.
It's chemical reactions.
There's no such thing as organic. It's all chemistry. It's directed chemistry.
No, it's not.
Try to understand it's directed chemistry.
No, chemistry happens based on interaction.
No, chemistry happens, but not directed chemistry doesn't just happen. It has to be directed for it to be programmed, for it to work.
No.
For it to work as a directed working mechanism, it has to be programmed
why did
written programming and orders for it to work.
Why did dinosaurs exist before human beings?
It has to be directed working programming.
Again.
If I looked at the asteroid belt, right, and just zoomed in, and I didn't know anything about the laws of gravity, and I was let's just say I was someone who liked asteroids, I'd say, well, man, that's really complicated. And then a physicist says, oh, no, actually.
They go with it complicated again. It's got nothing to do with complicated.
I'm just going to write down the equation of gravity, right? It's an inverse square law, 1 over r squared, sum of the masses between them. Boom. The asteroid belt is a really bad place to discover gravity. But if you then go and look at a big gravity well, and there's an asteroid falling into it, suddenly that simpler explanation can then be applied in a more complex context. So
there you go with complex again. Complex doesn't mean anything. Doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove you can get written instructions, directed working written instructions that aren't there.
I want to just quickly speak to one apparent contradiction. Life is boring, life is boring and life is complicated. What I'm saying is, I think it's boring to try and imagine what the chemistry could be at the origin of life by just taking cells apart, because we've got an existence proof problem. I'd rather zoom out and say, let's just put what we had available, guess, in a can, and see what complex comes out, and say, does that fool our Turing test for life? And then when it does, we then go, okay,
when it does, that's what the problem is. It never does.
We now care, and we're going to go and do that detailed mechanism. And we're going to be an organic chemist. We're going to do what all those amazing prebiotic chemists do, but we'll do them in the context of having made an observation that we find interesting, rather than doing a historical narrative-based experiment.
Okay, you're seeing an interesting thing. To me, an interesting thing would be a directed working mechanism, something that has written programming to make a directed working mechanism, a single directed working mechanism from pre-existing written instructions from thin air, apparently.
News for all the prebiotic chemists, and they're fantastic chemists, is that there is work for them to do. The bad news is they might have to change their narrative, but that's great because we get closer to the problem. And I'm saying, I think I'm discovering gravity, what the equivalent.
Closer to the problem is not closer to the answer.
The force that produces life, and what is the natural phenomena that does it.
The force that produces life is the instruction, the directed working instructions that would make directed working mechanisms.
Occasions it might work. Your listeners must not take my words as proof we've made life. Most certainly not. And I didn't say that in the last episode. And had you listened to the last, Jim recounted the last episode word for word, I would explain very honestly that I am as confused as the next person. That's why I'm doing the experiment. If I already knew the answer, why would I do it?
Okay, so that's an admission of not accomplishing anything whatsoever.
There are some people out there who are engineers doing chemistry, and because they want to make stuff and make machines and do all that. And there are other people that are going from the bottom up and saying, what is it about physical reality that gives me complexity?
There you go with a nebulous smokescreen again. It doesn't tell me anything. Complexity doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me how you get programming, written instruction to make a directed working mechanism. Rubbish.
That's what we're homing in on, and it's a very important problem that hasn't been addressed correctly, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be really astonished at the outcomes.
I'm very astonished that you proved nothing whatsoever.
From what I'm seeing in my lab.
Actually, I'm not astonished. It's what I expected.
But great claims need absolutely fantastic evidence, completely transparent to argument, and that's one of the reasons why I came on and we're happy to debate with Jim, because I think
excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tony wants a link to StreamYard.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, this timestamp where he said that it's the origin of life isn't falsifiable. I'd say that's a major problem for the atheistic community. They're trying to prove this origin of life. They can't. They haven't shown. Right. They haven't shown any chemistry that's ever led to a cell. Ronin admitted that. He's never produced life in his lab. Then James Torr was saying how the chemistry doesn't work. And the experiments are greatly exaggerated. These huge claims where they did all these experiments are just blown out of proportion. It doesn't work. And then the other statement where Ronin is using purified chemicals, I would say those are three major problems there.
Right. Templates, everything.
The templates, I know, Ronin, you think they're unguided, but they're guided. That's guided chemistry. If you go into a lab and you try to come up with a chemical template, you have to use purified chemicals. You have to use sterile test tubes. It's guided chemistry. You're not under a rock, on a primitive Earth with the harsh conditions of the prebiotic Earth. I mean, you're in a nice sterile laboratory environment. So these are serious problems.
And the best he can come up with is complexity.
But and even then, they still can't get life. And
No,
Cronin,
complexity doesn't mean anything.
it doesn't mean anything. And Cronin admits that. And then to top it all off, he says it's not falsifiable. I mean, he just cut off his own foot.
Right. You want to hear that again? What
Yeah, can you play that again? Because it's 53. Like, you know, they want to attack us. Why don't they attack Cronin?
The paper I showed Jim, and actually is on the archive, shows that molecular information, that is a template like that DNA does with itself, can basically template at a molecular level one structure that's impossible to form without that template. So it's almost like you're able to put a template into an archway, like a Roman archway, and put in a key, and then on that template you can build another one, and there's a hierarchy of templates. And what we've shown is you can make what's called an autocatalytic set. And the word set is really important. There is no example outside of biology of a catalyst that makes a catalyst that makes a catalyst that makes a catalyst, and they work together. Maybe Jim is jealous because he wants to do it in his nano stuff, but no one's managed to engineer it. We managed to discover one by scratch by searching. And yes, I would agree with Jim. We went and got pure molybdate off the shelf. The human being did that deterministically.
Pause it there.
We have to account, honestly, for the
information.
Honestly.
Yeah, so you got purified chemicals there. I don't know why they're not attacking Cronin for using purified, chemicals.
Yeah.
He's using purified reagents. So they want to say I'm a fool. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm repeating.
On a template.
Yeah, I mean, he's using a template with purified chemicals. So I would say that's not related to the early Earth. And I think Ronin left.
Because it's coming up. The unfossilfiable is coming up.
Yeah.
Into the material, into the experiment, and that's a valid comment. It's not a criticism, it's an assumption that you have to make. Now, I think that Jim is saying it's impossible to know what gives rise to biology because it's complicated, and I'm just saying that's a fairly poor argument, and we should say
not complicated, directed.
Yep.
Hey, let's agree on our assumptions. We both assume that chemistry at the origin of life was simpler than it was today. That's an assumption that can be tested. I'm happy to write down all my assumptions and test them at every stage. That's what a good scientist does. First assumption, no life. Second assumption, simple chemistry. Third assumption, a little bit of time. Fourth assumption, bit of energy. And then fifth assumption, some kind of selection in the environment, some kind of persistence. What is that? And I try to help the listener understand, and I was aware that not everyone is a professor of nanoscience, so I put it in terms that I think a listener could get some kind of analogy, metaphor out of. And Jim is kind of lambasting me for not having the correct term. He's already admitted he's not going to understand the mathematics, so I write it down. So the point is that we are talking about only one point of biology on Earth. We don't know what biology is. So it's ridiculous to kind of say, I'm going to make biology. I'm actually, if anything, an inorganic biologist or maybe an astrobiologist. I have made, to counter Jim's argument,
there's a good one, an astrobiologist.
Yeah. So,
what in the world is an astrobiologist?
They're looking for life-friendly molecules out in space because they can't. It's nonsense. They can't make the origin of life work here on Earth, so they think it's going to happen somewhere else.
System that's going to allow us to distinguish alien life from non-alien life on other worlds, and also use that in the laboratory. And I'll give Jim a working assay for biology or not, which he can try and attack, which is if I have a system, a magic black box, let's say in that black box, there could be a living cell, or there could be some random chemistry. I'm not allowed to know what. The only way I can tell when I get stuff out of that box is by looking at the complexity of the molecule. And we've done some good mathematics and some good arguments. And I've sent Jim that other paper, but maybe he's going to tell me that's all nonsense as well, that explains
because
when you use a pair of scissors,
it is all nonsense.
The molecules, whether that has been generated in a genetic system or an informational system, because genetics is a strong word, or not. So we have developed a test for finding chemistry that's becoming more complex. We're then developing a model to go and search for that. And now we're then instantiating that in the lab with good experimental assumptions. And we're going to go back and say, is that valid? Is that valid? What we're not doing, which I hope Jim will give us some credit for, is saying it's RNA, it's sugars, it's this, it's this, it's this. We're saying, no, we have no idea what the pathway to life was, but we know that living systems create complex artifacts, be them molecules, proteins, ribosomes, or the works of Shakespeare. So let's use those as a encoding for a experiment, and that's the falsifiable thing that we're doing, because 42. The origin of life isn't even a falsifiable question. 42. I can't even go back. 42, I don't know what happened. I never will. In fact, I actually don't care what happened at the origin of life. What I care.
He just shot himself right there.
Yeah, that's it. It's over right there. You can end the whole debate. I mean, there's nothing.
Not science.
It's not science, and I think Ronin left, and so did Illuminati. Did those guys leave?
806 maybe.
They left. Okay, well.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have another? Where are you debating next? Because I'll join your next live chat.
Basically, I'm just.
You're just on here tonight.
Yeah, I was running this. I don't know who's out. Who else is on? Is there somebody else on? Because I'm just wasting my.
No, it's just me and you. It's me and you. You want to cut? You want to sign off or?
Yeah, there might be somebody else.
Let him in. Yeah, I mean, but right there, when he said it's not falsifiable. Okay, well, it's not science. That's it. That sums it up. And I agree with James Torr that these experiments they're greatly exaggerated and they never lead towards life.
Yeah, and we're not even through. We're about halfway, a little over halfway through, and he just shot himself in the foot.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to listen anymore. That's it. It's what else is there to say?
Yeah. All right, I'm just burning up my time here.
All right, so. I'll sign off. I'll see you again, Jargon.
All right.
Keep up the good work, man.
All right, thanks.
Good night.
All right, so that's about it for right now. You know, it's not science, so it has no place in any classroom whatsoever.